Do you like wrestling trivia? Then check out the 5-star match game, the Pro Wrestling Quiz Show. I'm Joe Gagney, and every episode, I grill 3 contestants with 5 rounds of power-packed wrestling trivia. We have over 30 evergreen episodes in the archives covering WWE, AEW, Japan, Mexico, and much, 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 much more. Play along at home and check it out today.
Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
What do you guys want to talk about?
You are listening to the Flagship Podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
The lines are blurred between the living and the dead.
I'm like, what the fuck am I watching? Can I just watch a wrestling show ever in my life? I don't want the lines blurred between the living and the dead, Rich. I just want to watch guys wrestle.
And Rich Krage.
He's wearing it.
He's wearing a shirt. It's a button-up shirt. It's blue and it's purple, and there are purple drafts all over his fucking shirt. Apologize to me right now, everybody.
Rich, take that dub.
And we are live on the Flagship Podcast. I am Rich. He is Joe. Joe, what's happening? How are you? How you feeling? More importantly, people were worried after last week, but the voice is back.
I don't
Throat's
know
good.
what they're worried about. I told them there was nothing to be concerned with. I was not ill, and everything is fine. You know, so I will say this though. We might have to start this show over. I'm looking at the run sheet here. You seem to have forgotten, despite me reminding you, that MLW Burning Crush.
That's not a
this
thing.
Past week,
That's not a thing. Stop. You have to stop with this. You've been talking all day with this burning. What's it called? Burning Bush. What's this thing called? MLW what?
MLW Burning Crush.
Not a thing. It's not a thing.
No, yes, it did.
Where do you watch this thing?
What do you mean?
It's not on. It's not on a Triller TV Plus powered by Fight.
No, see,
I'm looking at it right now.
If you let me get a word in edgewise
Okay.
here, I can explain you seem to be confused with the new MLW broadcast schedule. You don't see. Here's what they do.
Where's Fusion? What happened to my Fusion?
You know, you really are a piece of work. I'm
Okay,
trying to
keep going.
explain this.
Go.
Trying to explain this.
I'm done.
They give you a pay-per-view on the fight. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is what you're looking at.
Coming up in Intimidation Games. February 29th coming right around the corner, baby. How do they have another pay-per-view? How do this company always have pay-per-views coming? I never know when they're coming, and they're always just about to be here. This one's in 7 days. I swear to God they had one a week ago, right?
Start. Yeah. Well, yes, that's what they do. Listen. Less talky, more listen.
Okay.
Listen. There's no more Fusion. So what they'll do is give you a pay-per-view on Fight, such as One Shot. Do you remember the One Shot?
I remember the One Shot. Yes, Super Fight, King of Coliseum. We remember all these.
Correct. Yeah. And then later that night, or on the same night, they will then tape a series of matches for a YouTube streaming special that will air at a later date.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So here, remember we just reviewed Super Fight?
Yes.
A few weeks ago.
Yes.
Which was on the 3rd of February. That's the show where Satoshi Kojima
They had 2 pay-per-views in February? This is what I'm saying. This is too many pay-per-views.
This is where he upset Alex Kane for the title,
right.
And they had Mystico versus Averno, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that same night in Philly, in the hallowed 2300 arena,
where they always
the
run.
the American Corrigan, okay? They also taped Burning Crush.
Okay.
Which then aired 2 weeks later on the 17th of February, this week, on YouTube as a YouTube special. This is what they do now. There's no Fusion.
Fusion's done.
Pay-per-view.
Fusion's over.
Fusion's done. You get a pay-per-view on Fight. On that same night, they record a YouTube streaming special that airs a couple weeks later. Rinse, repeat. Next pay-per-view is Intimidation Games on the 29th. Leap year. On that same show in New York City, they will record Once Upon a Time in New York, which will then air on YouTube on the 16th of March. Got it now?
I got it. Okay.
So every time they have a show, it's a pay-per-view and a taping for a streaming.
Or it's one of these streaming specials or whatever. Okay. Because you kept saying it like it was
same night.
Okay, because you're making it sound like it was a pay-per-view, and I guess that was my fault because you were saying Burning Crush or whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Where do I find this? And I looked on Fight, I didn't see it, and I was like, you're making this thing up. There's no way this is true. I'm not
Quite often
seeing
your fault. I'm just saying, Burning Crush was taped the night of Superfight, and it didn't air until this week. Intimidation Games will be on the 29th.
Locked in on that. I'm locked in. We're good.
That's right.
Instant Reaction Live.
Tape.
Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you. We're not doing it.
They will tape.
Keep waiting for the link. It's coming any minute now.
I'm into the MLW now. And then they will tape Once Upon a Time in New York, which will then air on the 16th of March. And then 2 weeks after that is War Chamber. See, every 2 weeks there's something.
War Chamber. Okay.
Going back to Florida for War Chamber. That's March 29th. Then they're coming to your neck of the woods in Cicero for Azteca Lucha.
Yeah, which I'm going to try to go to. I think I'll be around for that.
So, Burning Crush was the YouTube special that aired this week. And I'm not seeing it on the run sheet. I reminded you multiple times.
Well, I'm now discovering it is actually real, and I've punched it up on my second monitor here, so I will watch it on in the background. Obviously, I will not be able to give a thorough review. I honestly figured you were making that up because I just figured there was no way there could be another MLW pay-per-view so quickly after Super Fight. But now it makes a little bit of sense. So I apologize for not including MLW The Burning Crush. That's what the video says, The Burning Crush here. So I don't know.
Burning Crush.
But the graphic just says Burning Crush. So I get why you would maybe be confused. But the graphic says The Burning Crush. Or the title on YouTube says The Burning Crush. So
clearly I was in charge of the title on YouTube. But the name of the show, I believe, is we could go with The Burning Crush. Yeah,
I mean that's what it says.
For me,
the world of MLW.
Yeah, The Burning Crush. Yeah. But listen, I'm surprised you've been caught off guard because you should know better than anyone that the world of MLW never stops.
It really does not. It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
And here you are just assuming that it would have stopped at some point.
I thought for at least like a week or two it would have stopped. But that when will I learn? When will I learn that the world of MLW never stops?
Do you have their new schedule? You understand it now?
I got it now. I got it. Yeah, I'm locked in now. Much like you, I am now locked in on MLW. So
locked in. Yeah.
Good to go. And like I said, I have it on my monitor here. So whenever you are ready to talk about it.
Listen, yeah. I give you time to
give me
take in the action.
An hour and 53 minutes. Right? My God.
Yeah. Now listen.
Who needs that much MLW? What are those tapings like? Holy crap.
Yeah.
How many hours are you there for? I guess just 4, right? Because I guess this is it. Yeah, about 4 hours. I've been doing MLW taping. Doesn't move very quickly, but that was in the Fusion days, so it's possible it moves a little quicker.
Those, because those pay-per-views don't wear out their welcome. They're in and out.
No, they're pretty neat and tidy. They're neat and tidy. They're neat and tidy 2 hours,
which is about as much as you can take.
That's about the limit of MLW that any normal human can withstand.
Now the YouTube, but the Burning Crush here, the talent level isn't quite, the same caliber as the pay-per-view.
Okay, because I guess that would be my question to you then is like, why would I ever buy the Triller TV Plus powered by Fight pay-per-views if I can just... Now, I guess those are all included on my Triller TV Plus powered by Fight subscription, but if MLW is one of the big hooks for why you're subscribing to that I guess would be my next question is why would I watch those when I have these free things on YouTube? But you're telling me these YouTube shows are lesser than Super Fight or Intimidation Games.
Yeah, you're not getting the big title matches. They're building to the next pay-per-view.
No AJ Frank on this show because you're getting him on Intimidation Games, baby. He's everywhere these days.
No, Frank debuted on The Burning Crush.
Oh, okay.
He showed up in a promo and challenged Alex Kane.
Right as you said that, there's the face. There he is on the screen.
Right? I'm
looking at it right now. Yep, I'm looking at it right now. challenging while he's at his worst. While Alex Kane is at his worst, here comes AJ Frank. Is that his name? Is that what he's going by?
Going to be AJ Francis. And, Beaumaye is for the people, as you know, Rich, right?
Mm-hmm, of course, yeah.
Well, I know you have it on mute. Francis says, no, you're not for the people. I'm for the people. So it's a battle over the people.
The people, okay.
Yeah. So, that's why he's challenging him. So, if he would have challenged him a couple days earlier, he could have got himself an MLW World Title.
Yeah, that's kind of
a very savvy move by Francis. But I believe they'll be having their singles match at the Intimidation Games, right? Let me double check that.
Yeah, sure.
No.
Got to wait for that one.
Alex Kane's taking on Bobby Fish at Intimidation Games.
Oh, where's the lie? Bobby Fish. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know when they're doing the AJ Francis, maybe War Chamber? No, yeah, maybe War Chamber, I guess. Does Francis live in Florida? I think he does.
Yeah, he lives in Florida, yeah.
All right, well, then it would make sense if he'd be working the Florida show. That's War Chamber.
Right, or maybe he's going to head up to Azteca Lucha. Take on Alex Kane in my backyard.
Well, cross your fingers. Wouldn't that be a nice gift?
Oh, man, that would be nice, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, that match is coming at some point. But I'll give you a chance to get through it. You gotta...
I'm working my way through.
Let me know when you
I'm
get
about
to,
11 minutes in, so I got about an hour and 48 minutes left to go. But, yeah, we're working through it.
Yeah, let me know when you get to the Lumberjack and Jill match between Brett Ryan Gosling and Love Dog. Let me know when you get to that one.
And no.
Then I know we're hitting the home stretch.
I thought they were done. I thought that feud was over. It's not over. Okay.
Well, you thought wrong. But see, that's what they give you on the YouTube specs.
Okay. Well, that's what they gave you on the pay-per-view, too. Hold on a minute. That's what they gave us on the pay-per-view as well.
That's true. No, it's a very backloaded show. You're going to get Ricky Shane Page against Jake Christ for the national openweight title.
Yeah.
You're going to get a little Tom Lawlor versus Matthew Justice.
Okay.
As World Titan Federation takes on the whatever those guys call themselves.
The Second Gear Crew. As that feud rolls on. Hey, listen, you're going to get a little Cozy Max against Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Richard Holiday. So you get Kojima and Okamura. Okay.
And then the main event, the Baklai Brawl. Jacob Fatu.
The what? Excuse me?
The Baklai Brawl. Jacob Fatu against Mads Kruger.
Oh.
He's back, baby.
God damn it.
See, now they're billing him as Mads Cruel Kruger.
Oh, so he's his indie and his MLW name all put together. Great.
Now, I don't know if I would remind people that he's like the terrible indie worker Cruel. I would make
yeah, maybe it's best distance.
Maybe it's best
distance for that. Yeah.
But spoiler alert, that was Fatu's last night, so you could figure out how that one may have ended.
Okay.
But,
all right.
That's what you're in store for.
All right. Well, you're gonna have to kind of do the heavy lifting then, because I'm gonna be focused, locked in, mind you, on.
More than right. I'm kind of getting into the MLW. I got to be honest.
Does AJ Francis live with like 7 other people? Why are there so many cars in his? But none of them are like luxury cars.
Well, they're his cars.
There's just there's a Sprinter van, there's like a BMW, and then there's just like a Corolla, and then there's like a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and there's a lot of cars, but none of them are luxury. It's
like a Volkswagen Jetta,
right? There's like a hatchback there. There's some guy's hatchback. It's like a Volkswagen Golf in the background too, and I'm like, I mean, it's good to have. Is it that cool to have like 6 like decent cars, or would you want to trade those all in and get the Ferrari or something like that? Does he? Yeah, he looks like he lives on a commune or something like that. I don't know what's going on there, but anyway, good for him.
Well,
I want to know what's in that Sprinter van. What does he do with the Sprinter van?
I don't know.
Okay, that's Nurse showing up in the background. All right. So I'll be locked in. We'll be ready to go. for later in the night. But we got a lot to cover tonight. It's a loaded
so much on this show.
Flagship. We are going to talk about WrestleUniverse, increasing their pricing, but adding new promotions to the mix, and discuss the state of 0-1, which I'm still trying to kind of figure out right now as well. But they're going to be on WrestleUniverse, sort of. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Hangman Page, is he actually hurt? Is it work? We're going to talk about that as news kind of rolled out today. We're going to preview the most impassioned and detailed WWE Elimination Chamber Perth preview you are going to get is going to happen right here. Nobody breaks down a WWE PLE like we do here on the Flagship, and you're going to get yet another amazing, in-depth, just breaking it down like nobody else is going to break it down. Elimination Chamber Perth preview coming up later on the show. TNA No Surrender. Yes, TNA has a pay-per-view. You might not know that MLW has a special on YouTube like me, but you probably know that TNA has a pay-per-view this Friday. TNA No Surrender 2024. We'll talk about that show, as well as some other stuff going on in the world of TNA. Obviously, since the Scott D'Amore thing has happened, there's been a lot of different moving parts going on in TNA. Josh Alexander's contract option was exercised. Hourglass emoji tweets. We're going to talk about all of that. We'll preview New Japan's New Beginning in Sapporo, night 1 and night 2. The final nights for Okada as well as Tama Tonga, and some big spots for Matt Riddle and Nick Nemeth on these shows as well. We'll do a detailed review, earnestly detailed review. I was joking, as you could probably tell by the Elimination Chamber preview, but a actually detailed review of RevPro High Stakes 2024 featuring Michael Oku and Will Ospreay in the main event. A lot of buzz about that match, and we're going to talk about it there. And also talk about Jennifer Pepperman being hired by AEW as Vice President of Content Development. But we wanted to start this show because it's been maybe a week or two since we've had a chance to kind of talk about the latest with the Vince McMahon WWE lawsuit going on. And obviously there's some stuff trickling out about it, but mostly we've heard kind of the same stuff over and over. The one thing this week that I think did pop up a little bit that maybe got some people's antennas up was Paul Roma going on News Nation. News Nation, again, continuing to be like the number one source of actual interviews about this entire case, which just blows my mind. But News Nation talking to Paul Roma, and Paul Roma bringing up the Jim Powers story, which I assumed that most people knew, but it seemed like this week a lot of people didn't know the Jim Powers story. So if you don't know the Jim Powers story, essentially Paul Roma, his tag team partner in the Young Stallions, was Jim Powers. And Jim Powers told the story many years ago that he was propositioned by a member of the WWE staff, or WWF staff at the time, to, do whatever sexual thing that they wanted, if they wanted to get a push or if they wanted to move up the ladder and all that sort of stuff. Jim said, no, I'm not going to do that. And Roma and Jim have been on record many times over saying that that's the reason why their team broke up, why they didn't get to push, why they didn't get focused on, and all that sort of stuff. And Jim Powers always brings that up, is that that was the moment where when I said no, that's when all my everything went away for me. And that was during the time when the Ring Boy scandal was going around, when the Mel Phillips thing was going on, when the Tom Cole thing was going on. So there was a lot of other things at that very similar. So it got kind of lost in the mix of all the other things. But unfortunately, I think that entire period has kind of gotten lost to history, where now people are just now, new fans are just now learning about Jim Powers, about Tom Cole, about Mel Phillips, all that sort of stuff that speaks to the culture that the Janelle Grant lawsuit brings up, is that this is what this culture of this company not only just was in recent years, but pretty much has been for the last 30, 40 years. So that's kind of the big story there, is people learning about the Jim Powers story and maybe digging in a little bit more into what was going on. I know there was also another Ring Boy. I don't think he didn't put his name to it, right? Did you read this thing as well? I don't think this person put their name to it, but there was another person that worked as a Ring Boy in WWF around that time, basically saying that, yeah, being around Mel Phillips was very weird, very creepy. He always wanted to wrestle. He wanted to put his feet on my genitals, that sort of just weird, the Mel Phillips stuff that we all know, and hopefully all know. If you don't know, you can look it up on your own. I don't really want to get into the details of the Mel Phillips thing here, but again, more speaking to the culture that has been going on in that company for a very, very long amount of time, and the culture that Janelle Grant and in that lawsuit brings up, that, yeah, this is the culture that all this was happening in. So of course it would be, just swept under the rug, or at best, or at worst, I guess I should say, encouraged, across the company. So that's kind of the latest that's come out. And any thoughts on those before we get into some of the comments of Cena and Orton and a few other people that have kind of spoken about this recently? But anything on the Paul Roma or the new Ring Boy coming forward?
Well, I didn't even see the new Ring Boy story, but the Mel Phillips stuff has been well documented. There's an article by David Bixenspan a couple years ago. I don't remember what site published it, but that really goes into great detail on the Mel Phillips stuff. But if anybody wants to read that. Now, the stuff with the Young Stallions, they were a tag team from 87 to 89. Basically all of 87, all of 88, and then they broke up in early 89. And those accusations from Powers, corroborated by Paul Roma, aren't even anything new. You can hear them talking about that stuff going back a decade or more on shoot interviews.
Yeah, any shoot with either of those guys, that would be brought up.
Right. So Paul Roma did bring that up in his interview with what network was this now?
This was News Nation.
I know nothing about these news networks. Is this one of those right-wing news networks?
Yeah. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, and I think some people did say, it's I forget exactly what it is, but it's a tangentially right-wing type of thing or whatever. But they've been on, you know what? Credit where it's due. They've been on top of this story. Now, I don't know if they're just doing that because there's nothing else to talk about, or it's just a hot new thing right now. They're doing a Nancy Grace situation where, hey, how can we, get content out of this? But hey, content's content, and they're getting quotes and they're talking to people. So I have to give them a little bit of credit here, even if I probably do not agree with a lot of other stuff that's going on their network. But they have been front and center with interviewing old wrestlers, interviewing Ashton Massaro's former best friend, interviewing Janelle Grant's lawyer. The names escape me right now. I apologize about that. But yeah, been on top of interviewing a lot of ex-wrestlers and people involved in this story. So I do have to give them credit
Not that it really matters in this context, but are they one of the truly wackadoo right-wing ones, or are they one of the
that I don't
ones
know.
I think only Twitter says is wackadoo? You know what I mean? Yeah.
I don't think they're the full on. I forget what the actual. There are a few out there that are real.
Like Newsmax. I think Newsmax.
Yeah, I don't think they're. I don't think they're as bad as that. I don't. I wouldn't consider myself a knowledgeable enough to talk about that.
Shit. Yeah, but either way, I mean, they're at least covering the story, and they're covering it pretty intensely compared to these other. Because I know a lot of these newer super right-wing news networks have popped up because like they don't think Fox is extreme enough, and because they're mad that Fox doesn't like Trump, I think is really what the basis of it is. So I just don't know anything about News Nation. I never heard of them until this week with the wrestling stuff. So I was just curious, like who?
Right, they're the rebranded WGN America, but I think with that rebrand, they added some different spin on certain things or whatever. But yeah, I think that's essentially the void that they're trying to fill. But without, I'm of the belief that they're not as crazy as some of these other ones that are just completely out to, complete
lunatic hours,
yeah,
just total nonsense. Yeah. No, well, yeah. So anyway, I saw the Paul Roma interview. It was only about a 5-minute spot, and I didn't catch the anchor's name. But in addition to the Jim Powers story that had been out there for at least a decade, because now I know that Title Match Network put out the clip from the Paul Roma shoot interview and the Jim Powers interview talking about that incident specifically, where they don't say by name, but for whatever reason, everyone seems to agree that it's Pat Patterson is the one who propositioned Powers. Now, Patterson was exonerated from a lot of the things he was accused of. Maybe exonerated is not the right word, but a lot of it was debunked in the case of Pat Patterson. A lot of the things he was accused of a few years ago. But this one seems to be, and I don't know, because the clips that I saw, none of them named Patterson by name. And I guess people are just using either detective skills or process of elimination to deduce that it was Patterson who made the offer to Powers of basically the way Powers described it and Roma's. It's the MO that you hear with a lot of these stories, that he wanted to perform oral sex on him in exchange for a push, and Powers told him no. And what's interesting is Roma says that now Paul Roma and Jim Powers do not like each other. I think people need to know that, because that becomes important here, because they didn't get along in real time. And Paul Roma still talks like he can't stand the guy. They just didn't get along. They were different personalities. And even Roma from a decade ago and today corroborates that Powers didn't go for that shit and didn't go along with it. And, essentially blames it for the reason that the team wasn't pushed and was eventually broken up. and this is someone, Roma, who doesn't like powers, and you would think that if he did a shoot interview a decade ago and wanted to stick it to the guy, he would have made up some wacky stories that he did go along with it. But even then he said, no, he didn't go along with it. And his whole thing is they never even bothered asking me because he felt like they knew that it would just be a total non-starter with him because of his energy or whatever it was. But, so yeah, you could put the timeline together. They were a team from basically 87 to 88 and, a couple months into 1989. So like you said earlier, around the same general time period as the Ring Boy stuff and, and those scandals that were prevalent in the late 80s. So it's all out there. It's all on YouTube. It was all over. My algorithm picked up all of it immediately.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I watched it all this week. But the other thing that Paul Roma brought up was another story. The host said something about Mario Mancini is claiming that there's a story that, in Mancini's opinion, is worse than the Janelle Grant stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the host asked Roma, and he said, yeah, there is. He's right.
Here's the exact quote. Here's the exact quote. Yes, I do know what it is, and it is worse.
Yeah, and she asked him what it was, and he didn't seem comfortable talking about it. And she asked him if he'd be willing to come back to the show sometime and discuss it, and he was like, yeah, maybe down the line we could talk about it. But he did, for whatever reason.
He doesn't want to be the one that says it for whatever.
And same with Mario Mancini. Now, Mario Mancini, for people who don't know, was an underneath guy around the same time that Roma was in the company in the mid to late. Roma broke into the company in 84, and Mancini was a TV job guy. And I guess he went on the road too. Mancini is a prelim guy, around the same time period. So, and Mancini was probably gone by, I should probably look this up, but I don't think Mancini did not even last into, the late 90s. I don't think. Oh, I guess he did. He did jobs into the early 90s. So he broke in with Paul Roma around 84, and he left around the same time as Roma, around 91. I guess that's when Power and Glory broke up, right? Around 91.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, they both had, 7-8 year runs that covered the exact same time period. So,
yeah, I always feel like Mancini was before him, but I guess that doesn't line up. In my brain, for whatever reason, I feel like Mancini's ahead of those guys, but I guess he isn't.
Yeah. Mine too, but it's actually the exact same time period. They may have trained together too, because I know they're from the same part of the country. According to Cage Match, Mancini was trained by Tony Altomare and let me see, Roma. Paul Roma. Does that have his trainer? Sometimes they don't have. I don't have a trainer for him.
Yeah.
Does Wikipedia have a trainer for Roma?
Let me check. I'll see if I can figure that out real quick. But Mancini, for people who do not know, he was also one of the ones that pretty recently, you may, if you're just listening to this show and you haven't dug in, like we talked about him when the Rita Chatterton thing came up, because he always vouched for Rita, was friends with her, vouched for her, said that he was told what happened, and pretty publicly was saying, yeah, this happened. And then obviously, now that lawsuit finally got settled after all those many years or whatever, he then came out a little bit more and talked about, her confiding in him and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, if you remember, if that name is ringing a bell to you for the Rita Chatterton thing, yes, you would know. And that, if people don't know about Rita Chatterton, that was a recent sexual assault lawsuit that Vince McMahon just recently tidied up there. Who did Mancini get trained by?
Paul Roma was trained by Tony Altomare as well.
Okay, so there you go. I was about to say, I think that was the name I thought you said.
So they trained together and broke in together. So those guys have known each other for decades. Tony Altomare was a WWF guy. I believe he was the tag team partner of Lou Albano when Lou Albano was an active wrestler, and they were former WWF tag team champions. And in fact, a quick look at his wiki confirms that, doing the Northeastern Italian gimmick, so he stuck around the area, I guess, as a trainer. And it looks like he trained Ted Arcidi. There you go. He trained Rita Chatterton as well.
Well,
so
there
that's
you go.
The connection.
There's our big connection right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Mario Mancini for years, he has said he was friends with Rita Chatterton, and that explains it. So Chatterton, Roma, and Mancini all broke in together. So that just makes way too much sense. Altamore died in 2003. I would have guessed way sooner than that, but
he always looked old as hell, but he might have been one of those guys that looked 65 when he was 35 and then just kind of looked the same forever.
Yeah, that's, how it was. But typical wrestler of that.
Yeah, he looks like, close your eyes and imagine a WWF guy. That is what that dude looks like. It's just hairy.
Tony Altamore.
Yeah, his name is Tony Altamore. Close your eyes. Yep, that's what he looks like. Don't even look it up. He's just whatever your eyes are telling, whatever your brain is telling you, that man looks like. That is you are completely right. That is exactly what he looks like.
That's your 60s/70s.
Mario Mancini? You don't know what Mario Mancini looks like either? Close your eyes. Think of a man named Mario Mancini. You got it.
Yeah, for sure. The problem is Paul Roma kind of bucks that trend.
No, Paul Roma doesn't look like.
Guys, but,
But
no, he was definitely not of that ilk.
No.
But our listeners probably are very familiar with Paul Roma. But so that's the latest. You got anything else? Was there anything else on Vince this week?
Just wanted to quickly, the ring boy. So he did an interview with Lee Cole, who's the brother of Tom Cole, who Tom Cole has since deceased, by the way. So it's Lee Cole. He had an interview on his YouTube channel with and the former ring boy only named himself as Sean. So I don't know if that's his real name or anything like that. But he didn't want this whole name to be out there. But he is a former ring boy named Sean, and just kind of talked about the stuff with Mel Phillips. I don't have to read. I'm not going to really read all of it because it's a lot of it's really gross and disgusting. But the Business Insider, I believe, was the David Bixenspan piece. So he did October 29, 2020. He did it for Business Insider. So that's, if you want to read that, a very, very detailed thing about.
I mean, I
Mel
thought
Phillips,
I knew a lot about the Mel Phillips stuff, and I learned a lot reading that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it doesn't make you feel good. I'll tell you that right now. Warning, it's not good.
Real fucking gross.
It's real fucking gross. And the response from the company is real fucking gross as well. And that gets us all to these recent comments from several of the talents in WWE have given their thoughts about the Vince McMahon WWE lawsuit. You and I are both on record kind of saying that, like, I don't know if I really necessarily the problem is the executives aren't going to talk about this thing and nobody's going to talk to the executives about it. So I guess it's fine at this point if you're going to start talking to now some of the rank and file roster members. Like, I get it if they don't really have a whole lot to say. Like, I wrote an article on our Patreon. You can read it at flagshippatreon.com. And like, they talked to Natalya and Nia Jax or whatever. And I don't really expect much from Natalya and Nia Jax in terms of their response to it or whatever. Seth Rollins had probably the best response of any wrestler in the company. And I have all the quotes in that piece as well if you want to read that over at flagshippatreon.com. But this week, both Randy Orton and John Cena had quotes that I think are pretty eye-opening and just kind of like, I don't know if this is the way to be talking about this thing, but John Cena was on the Howard Stern show, did an hour-long interview with Howard Stern, and when prompted with this question, and credit to Howard Stern for asking him this question, prompted with a question about the Vince McMahon lawsuit and what it feels like to have, somebody that you knew be involved in this, John Cena said, quote, "Right now, what I'm going to do is love the person I love, be their friend. And by that it means, hey, I love you, and you have a hill to climb. There's the saying, you don't know who your friends are until the shit hits the fan or your back's against the wall. That doesn't make any of what's going on any easier to swallow, but just telling someone like, hey, I love you. Man, this is going to be a hill to climb. We're going to see what happens, and that's that. It sounds so cliche, but it has to be one day at a time. But at the same token, I've openly said, I love that guy. I have a great relationship with that guy, so that's that."
It basically mirrors the comments he made when the story first broke before we saw the grisly details laid out in the lawsuit. So, what do you want me to say?
Yeah.
It's not great.
It's a wild and one of the things that I talked about it in the article, so I don't have to if you want, because that's I wrote a big long piece about it if you want to read. But one of the things that's been so galling to me about all the quotes that people gave, and I'm going to give you Randy Orton's quotes here in a minute, is every single person, instead of, and I'm not saying that, I understand, and there's a lot of reasons why you wouldn't want to say, I have sympathy for Janelle Grant, or I have sympathy for the potential victims. I get why you wouldn't want to say that. I understand. I get why you wouldn't want to say that. You want to get involved in that. You don't want to, it's a lawsuit against the company that you work for as well. So that, we do have to remember that it's not the Vince McMahon lawsuit. It is WWE, John Laurinaitis, and Vince McMahon that are all defendants in this lawsuit. But I think we don't need to go over how great of a person Vince McMahon is while discussing this. I think you can very easily say what I read was disturbing, and I hope none of it's true, and I hope that we have enough the company is strong enough to not allow this sort of stuff to happen in our company, or just I hope nothing like this ever happens again, or whatever it may be. But all this, because here's Randy Orton's quotes, just to give you another one, and he did this at New York Post. He was interviewed with the New York Post and said, quote, I've seen the horrible things online that I don't want to believe because this man has done so many things for me. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been given a second and third chance in WWE. I wouldn't be in this position that I'm in now if it wasn't for that man. So part of me wants to not believe it, and then the other part of me understands that he could have done all these wonderful things for me and the business and created this amazing thing that will go on and on and on well after he's gone. But on the other hand, he's human, and he's made some fucking terrible mistakes. I don't really give a shit how great of a man he is. This isn't the time for, that's not the guy I knew. He's a great man. It's not the time. Not the time. And
yeah,
it's just, and every quote has had that. It's just, it's annoying. I hate seeing these quotes and all of them being, eaten up by, it's similar to the Paul Levesque thing. Let's focus on the positives, focus on the positives, focus on the positives. Dude, not the time to focus on the positives. Not the
Levesque's
time.
in a slightly different position. I'm not defending him. But he's a corporate officer being asked to comment on a lawsuit against the company. These guys, well, I guess technically aren't employees, right? But are employed by the company, right, for lack of a better term. Yeah, look, the quotes aren't great. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not really concerned with what, I say this a lot. When people were asking Nia Jax what she thought about all of this at the Royal Rumble and stuff, I don't really care what any of these people think. It's really not my concern. I'm concerned with what's the next step in the lawsuit. What's the next big break in the story? What is the next set of information we're going to learn? Personally, I'm more concerned with that and seeing anyone who needs to face justice in this situation and seeing that they do. To me, that's more important than did WWE superstar X give a good PR quote or not. Right. I'm not as wrapped up in that. Okay, I'm just not, personally. I know a lot of people are, and I get it. And I know in the case of John Cena, you're talking about somebody who wasn't just someone who worked for
very
Vince
close
McMahon,
to this guy,
but is very close to Vince McMahon. And that makes his situation a little different than Nia Jax or maybe even a Randy Orton or somebody like that, because he fraternizes with Vince McMahon. He's friends with Vince McMahon. He hangs around Vince McMahon.
Right, very publicly was seen with him after
the
the first Vince thing came out. Very publicly was seen at his birthday dinner or whatever. And everybody, it was Vince, his then girlfriend, not Janelle Grant, by the way. I know that's been kind of confusing, but for some people, that was not Janelle Grant that was out with Vince after the first thing came out, and he was at his birthday party with John Cena or whatever. That's not the same person.
No, but yeah, so that's kind of where I am on it. I will roll my eyes at these quotes like everybody else does, but just for me personally, to me, these are sidebars at best, and it's not what's important. To me, these kinds of things aren't what's important. I remember, a few weeks ago when we were talking about the Royal Rumble pressers and stuff, and it's I'm not even interested in asking current people on the roster what they think. I don't know. I'm just not personally interested in it. I don't care. What do I care what Otis thinks about any of this?
I think
really.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry.
if you're going to ask these people, it's really all they can do is say something dumb and make themselves look bad. Is that what we're trying to do? Are we trying to get them to say something stupid? Because it's one of two things. They're going to give a good PR answer like Seth Rollins did, where there's really no way to attack it. He said all the right things. And I'm not saying that's not really how he feels. I'm just saying Seth Rollins said all the right things. It's what you want to hear, right? Or they're not. And they're going to slip up and say something dumb, and then we're going to spend half a day dogpiling them. But what does that accomplish?
Right.
But again, Cena, I think, is a little different. And I think you can hold Cena to a different standard because he's admittedly a close friend of this man. So he's a little different to me than I really genuinely don't care what Nia Jax has to say. And I keep using her because someone did ask her. I mean, it means nothing to me. I am more focused on what's important. Let's figure out who corporate officer 1 through 4 is. Let's see what the defendants in the case say in response to the lawsuit. Let's see if there are some victims who are going to be brave enough to come out after years or decades and see what they have to say. Those are the things I'm personally focused on and interested in. More so than did Randy Orton, who historically says lots of stupid things, say a dumb thing about Vince McMahon. I expect Randy Orton to say a dumb thing. And what's going to happen? What's the end result of Randy Orton cushioning his comments about Vince with Vince was such a great man? Yeah, we're all going to roll our eyes and call him a dummy. And then what? Life goes on. I don't know. To me, it's not what's super important here.
Well, I will say one thing that has been eye-opening to me about a lot of these comments, and I'm kind of with you as well. I think the bigger story is way out in the distance there and has nothing to do with the day-to-day rank and file people working for that company. But what this does tell me, and this has been confirmed by Brandon Thurston as well, he has talked about this on WrestleNomics, he talked about it on Pollock and Thurston this week, that there has been no communication from the top down to employees, contractors, whatever of WWE about this situation. They got an email from Nick Khan when Vince McMahon was removed from the board, and that's it. That is all that they have heard about this entire situation. They know nothing. They've been told nothing. They don't know anything. They haven't been told to say this. They have been told to say that. There's been no communication whatsoever from the top to the rank and file, whether it be employees, roster members, any of that sort of stuff. And what that tells me more than anything is that I still don't think that I don't know if it's that they don't take this thing seriously, that they still don't care. I don't know what it is, but that to me, this is more the eye-opening thing about the comments that these wrestlers are giving is that I don't know if this company still gives a shit about what's going on in the story. I feel like the idea is ignore, it'll blow away like everything else does. And you know what? They're probably going to be fucking right in the end. And that's what's sad to me. Because that's their current strategy is ignore, it'll blow away eventually. And that's the tack they're taking. And that's the tack that Paul Levesque has taken. And that's the tack that all the roster members have taken as well. And I don't know if that's again, I'm not saying that that's been sent down because we know that clearly it hasn't been sent down. That nobody's gotten any correspondence or anything that says, hey, this is our current stance on this. They don't have anything. They're kind of on their own. But that tells me that independently of the company saying, hey, we want you guys to say this, it feels like every one of the quotes that has been said by anybody is essentially just, we got to focus on the future.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's like, do we not understand what's going on here? Do we not understand the ramifications of the many? And that's why I always want to reframe this thing as not the Vince McMahon lawsuit. You can be like the Netflix woman and put your fucking head in the sand and say, oh, the bad guy's gone, so everything's okay now. It's like, motherfucker, there are multiple executives listed in this lawsuit. You are a defendant. The company is a defendant in this lawsuit. And yet, it's like, the bad guy's gone. He was so good to me. I can't believe he did it. Maybe he did or not. I don't know, whatever. Move on. Let's move forward and think about the positives. And that is the tack that everybody in that company that has been asked about this so far has taken. And that annoys the hell out of me because it's like, man, this is a big deal. This is a big thing right now. And I think that this company understands or at least hopes and thinks that they can just let this thing blow over like every other fucking thing that's ever been attached to them. And eventually it won't matter anymore. And hey, guess what, Joe? Their business is booming. It doesn't matter for the business. They're selling out all over the place. Record high ratings. Doesn't matter. It's all fine in the business sense. So that's good. I don't know. It's to me that's it's more, I'm not necessarily focused on individually of what these people have said and what Nia Jax, again, bringing her up, and but more that, like, man, the corporate culture around that place is, again, just, man, not the guy I knew. Well, anyway, let's move forward. And it's like, holy shit, read the stuff in this lawsuit. Think about all the corporate executive members. And it's executives from the top of the corporate all the way down to production guys. You know what I mean? That we're all involved in all this sort of shit. And it's just like, move forward, WrestleMania, Elimination Chamber, we're good. And that to me is maybe the most disturbing thing, not necessarily about the quotes themselves, but just the idea that I still think that this company doesn't understand what is really going on here and thinks that it's just great to, or the proper way to handle this is just ignore, focus on the positives, move forward, bad guy gone, move forward. And that disturbs me. It really does.
I do think it's telling with Cena specifically that someone who's so careful about his PR and everything that comes out of his mouth is so unwilling to say anything negative about this guy, about Vince. I mean, that has to raise your eyebrows.
Mm-hmm. The guy's a PR robot. He's a PR robot. Anytime you ask him anything about anything. He's a PR
robot. He has a Hollywood career to protect. He has an image to protect. He's, he's a hero to children. He's done 1 million Make-A-Wish. He has every incentive in the world to where, no matter what his honest thoughts are about this, let's say that he's a heinous creature whose honest thoughts about this would repulse us. He still has incentive to throw Vince under the bus. And he won't do it. That's stunning to me. That he won't even walk up to the line of disparaging this man at all.
Or just staying neutral about it and just saying, like, yeah, the things I saw were disturbing or whatever, and I'm heartbroken, and I hope what I read wasn't true. No, it's I love you. You have a hill to climb, but I love you.
It's crazy. It's the same comments he made when the story broke. And there's no way he hasn't seen the details of the lawsuit. And he still won't say anything disparaging about Vince McMahon. That has to raise an eyebrow for someone who is that close to him. You have to wonder what he knew, how much he knew. And I've been very careful. A lot of people want to play this game where they want to speculate who knew what, who participated.
Oh yeah. That's a dangerous game.
I've been very careful not to do that. I don't want to do that.
I'm not doing that. Yeah.
I also understand that we're in a slightly different position than just, random fan or random listener or random person on Twitter. But I'm not really interested in doing that. But when Cena makes comments like that, it makes me wonder. I mean, what would it take for him to say something mildly disparaging about Vince McMahon? He won't touch it. He won't even touch it. And he has as much to lose as anyone if he gets burned on this, and he still won't do it. I mean, that's either the kind of loyalty that a lot of us cannot fathom, or I don't know what it's.
It feels like a cult. It feels more and more like a fucking cult that this guy, it's kind of where I'm at with this thing now. It's like reading these quotes. It's just like, man, I don't know if now's the time that you have to tell, like, the Orton thing, like, after 5 minutes of puking out all these, oh man, what he's done for the business and what he's done for me and all the chances. Oh yeah, maybe he made a mistake. It's like, what?
Well, I mean, yeah, again,
he's an idiot though. He's an idiot.
It's Randy Orton. I mean, did he not meet your expectations with a quote?
Oh, no,
like
exactly. That's exactly what I assumed Randy Orton would say in this situation. So,
and that's not giving him a pass or anything. I'm just saying, like, that's exactly what I would expect him to say. Yeah, I don't know. It's Mick Foley, I think a couple weeks ago said something similar where he cushioned it with, and again, and look, I get it. It's a little different when you know the person personally and you thought you knew who they were and maybe you had a good relationship with them. And, I'm not even saying that some of these people aren't legitimately blindsided by the details of this. That's entirely
Oh,
possible.
for sure. Definitely.
I mean, you think you know the people in your life. Okay, you think you do.
And that's kind of what the Howard Stern, for really did not listen to the entire interview, that's essentially what Howard Stern started with. He said, hey, you know, this Vince McMahon thing is pretty wild. Like, I know I've had people that I've known in my life, or people that I consider colleagues and friends or whatever, do these sort of things. And I was completely taken aback, completely surprised and shocked when I learned about it. And that's sort of what the impetus was to the Cena, the quote there was, now, do you kind of feel the same thing about Vince McMahon? And that's, I guess, if that context is necessary, that's what it was. Is Stern was basically saying, I've been in that situation where somebody that I've known has been caught up in this sort of stuff, and I've seen these allegations come out, and I've seen these things come out about these people, and it stuns me because I thought I knew them and I don't, or I didn't, or whatever.
What Stern was doing was a huge favor to Cena and giving him a nice little platform to jump off of to answer the question.
Because there's very few people better at interviewing people than Howard Stern.
And Cena still blew it.
Right.
Like he gave him the whole to walk through to give the answer, and he still just couldn't disparage the man in any way, or even disparage the anything, you know. It's amazing. And you know, Stern's not going to spend more than 5 minutes of the 1 hour that he gets with the guy. He's not a wrestling reporter. He's not going to keep hammering him on it. Especially once he sees he's not going to get anything useful out of it.
Yeah.
He's got a whole other litany of, you know, questions about the guy that he wants to get to, that are going to be more productive for his audience. You know, if this were a wrestling interview, that would have been 1 hour of hammering John Cena.
Yeah, right. Are you kidding? Who's interviewing?
Well, no, I'm saying if like we were doing it,
yeah,
or
right.
But here's the thing: Cena's not going to do that kind of interview.
No.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like,
what wrestling other than us? Brandon Thurston, Jesse Collins. I mean, Dave Meltzer. The list is. I don't know if I need both hands to do the list.
It.
Yeah, I don't know if I need both hands. I think just one hand can probably do it. Which brings up a point, too, that I wanted to, before we move on to some other stuff, if people have not been following. So Tim Marchman for Vice has been one of the top guys doing the reporting about the story. And I talked about it a couple weeks ago saying, I'm glad that Tim Marchman's doing stuff, and I'm glad that the Wall Street Journal is doing stuff. But, like, I think the wrestling media is going to have to step up here a little bit, because I don't know when Vice is going to decide that we don't want to focus on the story anymore, or Marchman's going to have something else to do, because this isn't Marchman's main beat. Marchman does sports. He does the whole sports world. Something else is going to come up, and he's going to, you know, he might have to devote his time to that, or Vice is going to say, hey, Tim, stop wasting your time on the Vince thing. It's not getting any clicks anymore. We're moving on to something else. Well, today news came out that Vice is essentially shutting down. Marchman gave his notice, and he's off to somewhere else. Now, he said he's going to keep doing the stories that he's doing or whatever, but who knows? You never know what his news site's going to say, or if he's doing a news site, or if he's doing his own Substack, or who knows? You never know what these guys, you know, what the next landing spot for these people are going to be. But this is the big reason why I said, like, all right, guys, like, we cannot sit around and wait for the Wall Street Journal and Tim Marchman and News Nation to handle all of the heavy lifting on this story, because something's going to happen with the Wall Street Journal that they're not going to have the time and the money and the energy to focus on this. Something's going to happen with Vice that they're not going to have the time and the energy. And News Nation, like I said, they're doing kind of the Nancy Grace thing right now. I think it's nice. It's a hot button issue. They can get, you know, people about it, but something's going to come up and they're going to say, oh, all right, well, wrestling thing's gone. All right, whatever, we're good. Let's move on this thing. Something else is going to happen. There's going to be some other controversy going on in the world, and they're going to focus their energy on that. So it's up for people that are doing wrestling every day. This is their job. This is your beat. Pro wrestling. Like, it's up for these people to start reaching out to people and talking to people. Hey, News Nation brings on Paul Roma, and Paul Roma in 5 minutes brings up something that maybe a lot of people forgot about, that leads you to the Mel Phillips thing, which might make you say, oh, wow, I didn't know about that. You know, learn new news about the Mel Phillips thing, or learn, you know, for the first time about the Mel Phillips thing, and then corroborates Mauro Mancini's thing. So it's like a 5-minute thing where, hey, you just reach out to Paul Roma and you ask him the fucking question, and look, we got a little bit of information about it. Good. A lot of people can do this. A lot of people in the wrestling world are capable of doing this sort of thing, and they're just not. And now this Tim Marchman thing and Vice going away looks like you can't post. I mean, they're shutting the website down. People have been told that you can't even, that they're going to just, the site might just be gone in general. So all those stories that Marchman did, yeah. So
dead.
Can you not even go to the site anymore? Is it dead?
The site is hold on.
So I think you can still browse the site.
Oh no, I know, but they're shutting down.
They're shutting down.
I see what you're saying.
There's
I
the
see what you're
worry
saying.
that
You
they're
can
going to
still
do
access it.
because a few websites, and I forget the one. There was this new news thing that came out a couple of months ago. It was this hot, tech bro news story thing. Oh, we're going to reinvent news. We're going to disturb it. And then when it went bad, they just deleted the whole fucking website, and everyone's work just went away. Now, that could happen with Vice. That could immediately, and that's kind of the worry that a lot of people had. But apparently, yeah, you cannot post to Vice anymore. Vice.com is essentially dead, and will it all get deleted? But that's Marchman's work that he's done so far on the Vice thing. And again, I don't know what he's going to do. He says he's going to stick with the beat. He's going to stick with the story. I'm glad, and I hope he does. But there also exists a situation where he has to focus on something else. So if you take him out, let's say that he has something else to do, and he's out, we're left with News Nation and the Wall Street Journal, the only people doing any heavy lifting on this story. And that, come on, it can't be that way. It can't be that way. And that's what the rant I was on a couple weeks ago about this, that we need just I'm not saying everybody has to devote every fucking minute of their lives to this, but talk to people, bring people on, ask people. I mean, that's who knows what information we can get, information that can be gleaned about this story by doing actual journalism. And it's nobody cares. And this is how these sort of things can just flutter away, and WWE's going to get their way, that everyone will just forget about it, and we'll move on and we'll move forward, and we've had an amazing week type of stuff. So that's my rant there.
Someone in the chat was saying that News Nation scored right down the middle or moderate in some kind of unbiased news media poll. So maybe we mischaracterized them a little bit at the top. As far as
I just kind of assumed, because like you said, there was 5 of those different ones that were
same for me.
Yeah, they're all the same.
Keep popping up, and
they're dun. It's mildly attractive person. You're not getting the truth anymore, but we're going to give you the truth.
Yes.
Come subscribe to us on this weird streaming platform that you've never heard of, and I'm like, oh boy, this can't be good.
Yeah. But yes, that's the latest on Vince, which I think. And the lawsuit, which I think we're going to be talking about, like we say every week, for months and months and months. Still no response from the defendants.
No.
We're waiting for that.
I think the deadline. Brandon did say that he maybe misunderstood when the deadline was or whatever, but soon. I mean, hopefully soon we're going to hear about it. But I don't know. It seems like it should happen soon, but I don't. Yeah. I'm clearly not an expert in that field, so we'll see.
I guess there was the bit with we talked about Ashley Massaro's friend who went on News Nation to discuss that scenario, but then Ashley Massaro's daughter sent out some tweets this week. Maybe we should bring that up too, where one, she said she disavowed the friend and said that it wasn't really her mother's friend anymore, and it's someone that has been harassing her and her family, and that they don't want anything to do with, and that her mother's wishes were not to discuss this stuff. And then in a second tweet, did then say all of these things that are being, and I'm paraphrasing, really did happen to her mother. It's just that her mother's wishes were to leave it alone, let it die, don't talk about it, and this woman isn't my friend anymore. This, according to the daughter.
Right.
Of course, the first tweet got weaponized by all the worst people that you would imagine, without acknowledging the second tweet. Which
confirmed that said everything in the affidavit is correct, and everything
did happen to my mother.
But this is not the way that we wanted it to come out, and this is not her wishes that this would be the way that it would come out. It was essentially what it was. But like you said, that part got ignored, and the part that got just publicized everywhere was her saying, "This person's not even my mom's friend. She wasn't even my mom's friend anymore." And it's like, okay,
use the right term. Weaponized by
the dumbest people,
some of the lowest people you can imagine. Yeah, and I'm not saying that they're media people or anything, but randos on social media who are just whose wrestling tribalism goes far beyond what you would think that a human is capable of, it even in a scenario like this, where they're going to weaponize a tweet knowing full well that there's a follow-up tweet that essentially corroborates the stories there. And look, the Ashley Massaro story is nothing new. That's not anything new. Just like it's the old bones of these old stories that are coming up now that really only people like us were privy to, that are now being exposed to more of the mainstream. And that's what we were talking about earlier when it comes to Mel Phillips. And I mean, I've seen so many stories being unearthed that there's so many that I've forgotten about some of them. I don't know how it is for you, but like, I'm seeing random tweets or things brought up, and it's like, oh yeah, I completely forgot about this thing that was horrible that happened in 1991, or this other thing that happened in 1986. Because there's so much shit with that company that you can't even keep track of it all. It's kind of like whenever we talk about Vince and his legacy, you can go on for an hour talking about all of the evil things that he's done and leave another hour worth of shit out.
Right. Or like when we were dancing on his grave when he resigned the first time, we spent the entire show, had a plan of what we're going to talk about, had our little bullet points about Vince, and then you'd be like, wait a minute, what about this? And I'm like, oh, right, that. And then we spent about an hour and a half doing, oh, right, yeah, what about this? Oh, yeah, right, what about this? Like, just the over and over and over and over again for now. And yeah, we still left 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things on that we completely forgot about. We didn't know about. So yeah, it's never ending here. And it's good that these old stories are coming out, but I do wish a little bit more focus was being put on trying to get some aspects of this new story put out. But I hopefully there's work being done behind the scenes that we're not seeing, and hopefully more of this stuff comes out, because there's unnamed executives that need to be named pretty quickly in my mind.
I know you're more cynical than I am, but and look, I've always been right with you with Vince McMahon and this company are Teflon, and they have been for many, many years. I think this is beyond the pale, and I don't think this one's going away. Maybe you will be proven right to be more cynical.
I hope not. I hope I am wrong.
But I really don't think this one's going away, and I do genuinely think it's going to get worse for both Vince and the company before it gets better. And I do think we're going to have periods where it feels like it's going away. Okay, but I don't think that's true. That's going to be the case. Mm-hmm. I do think that far more is going to be exposed, and it's just going to take, we keep mentioning Tim Marchment and everything, but it's just going to take the right mainstream media person to catch a whiff of this story and catch a whiff of the things like the Ring Boy scandal, or Cole, or Phillips, or Rita Chatterton, and really get a bug up their ass about it and want to do something about it. And that could happen at any moment, and I'm just confident that the story isn't going anywhere. I truly believe that this is going to be a bigger problem for the company. Someone in the chat earlier, they were like, look, what's the biggest consequence they've faced so far? Slim Jim pulled a sponsorship and it lasted like 2 hours.
Right.
I mean,
well, that's why I am very dubious on this resulting in anything. I'm scared.
I get it.
Because this is their entire history has been them skating by and these little things mattering for 2 minutes.
Now we got lawyers, though, sniffing around talking about, hey, if you or someone has been abused by the WWE or UFC, contact us. So, who knows what's going to get unearthed on the other side of the company. That's not exactly a bunch of choir boys running that thing either.
No, certainly not.
And that's not exactly, you want to talk about cultures. We don't need to get in all, but I mean, so
one thing that would help that, and one thing that would help that, sorry to interrupt, but sports reporters getting involved in digging up UFC stuff might help this situation, because wrestling reporters are not going to do it. They don't care. They're too busy aggregating shit to spend time on this. So I get it. They got to listen to podcasts by Eric Bischoff and aggregate some dumb shit that he's vomiting about AEW Dynamite this week. So they're too busy. And
in some cases, the aggregation is too exhausting for them, and they're thinking of calling it quits.
Right, exactly. Anyway, so I get it. It's been tough for them to aggregate these Eric Bischoff quotes and Paul Roma quotes and stuff. It's too much. Yeah. So I get it. They're busy. Sports reporters getting involved in this thing because they will treat this like a real company and treat this like a real thing, that if there are people that come out and say, hey, this is happening to me in the UFC, this happened to me in the UFC. You will get sports reporters. You will get ESPN. You'll get, I was going to say Sports Illustrated, but they're gone. So forget about Sports Illustrated. They're done and gone. But you'll get ESPN. You'll get The Athletic. You'll get these type of places that I think would dig in a little bit more than wrestling media would. So that is maybe one of the things that might help this situation a little bit, is that if UFC does start to get involved in this and people do bring up UFC, that those people can then dig in a little bit more, because I'm confident that those people will understand that they have a duty and a job, and they will do the work to actually figure these things out and try to get. Now, will it solve everything? I don't know, but I'm more confident in, if a speckle of something comes out of USC, that the sports media will do their job to really investigate this thing, whereas wrestling media and just the general public too treats wrestling like it's the circus and laughs at it, and they still do. After it can be, this is $1 billion industry at this point, $1 billion industry, and it is still being treated like a circus. You know what I mean? It's still treated as let's throw in a WWE's going to lay the smackdown on Netflix, and Netflix body slams the competition by buying WWE. It's still considered the circus is in town type of thing. So yeah, but I think UFC will be treated a little bit more seriously. So that, like you said, that would be one of the hopes, one of the potential hopes, is that if something does come out about UFC, that maybe then that arm of the TKO will get a little bit more scrutiny, and that might, put a spotlight on everything a little bit more.
Yeah.
Now, ESPN did cover WWE obviously for a little bit, but we know what that was. That was haha bullshit time. Jonathan Coachman and all that bullshit. They're not actually doing real work on.
Yeah, no, they weren't at that time. No.
And well, I guess ESPN is very much aligned with UFC, with UFC Plus. So hey, never mind. maybe they won't do it. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe CBS will get involved. Sports Illustrated, they're dead. I guess The Athletic might. Yeah. Oh, hey. Journalism's in a really cool spot right now. This is cool. This is great. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm saying ESPN as if they're going to leverage and destroy one of their cash cows of their streaming network. Yeah, probably not. Anyway. Want to talk about Hangman Page, Joe?
Well, it's that time of the show where we
awkwardly
transition to fake fights now.
Yeah.
But,
breaking down and discussing fake fighting. The latest on Hangman Page's ankle, Joe. Hey,
it's what we do, and there's nothing wrong with continuing to do both. I think. Well, the issue is, depending on what kind of content you're producing, I guess the issue is just not covering it at all. That's the issue. It's
or saying it makes you upset to talk about. Well, sorry.
It's awkward every week going from that to
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God we don't have ad reads. That would be the best. Be like, all right, well, Joe, let me tell you a little bit about HelloFresh.
No. What if it was like Blue Chew or something? That would be awful.
Right? Yeah, we should probably, if not that they're banging down our door anyway, but just in case. Yeah, the Blue Chew one would be horrific. Yeah. Well, hey, speaking of,
you almost would have to punt it.
We almost would have to say, guys,
how can you do a Blue Chew ad with this story going on prominently on your show? You can't. Right. Is the answer. You can't do a Blue Chew.
Sorry, for hymns. We can't do the read this week. So
we'll have to forfeit the $48 you were going to send us for this ad, and and if that's a shoot, I don't know what is, and that would be that, but.
There it is.
All right, let's talk about some crap.
Let's talk about Hangman Page's ankle. So after the main event of Dynamite last night, many people from the building reported that Hangman Page was limping, clearly favoring his ankle. In the match itself, he was about to take the muscle buster. He kind of squirmed out of it, landed on his feet, seemed to collapse, and then roll out to the outside, tag out, and he was not around for the rest of the match at all. So on this morning's Wrestling Observer Radio, Brian Alvarez said that Page was going to be checked out for a broken ankle, and that was confirmed by Dave Meltzer as well. They both agreed that there was some type of severe injury related to Page's ankle. Whether or not it was a broken ankle or not was going to be found out later. Not so fast, in my best Lee Corso. Not so fast. This morning, Sean Ross Sapp at Fightful Select reported that Page hadn't suffered an injury and was just selling. The words used by talent in AEW that talked to Sean were, quote, he's completely fine, and, quote, he's good at his job. So, Joe, what the fuck's going on here?
Well, I guess you missed the Alvarez follow-up. Alvarez later said that it was, in fact, a work, but there's a purpose to it in that they are not sure whether or not he can make the pay-per-view date. So they are doing a little work injury here so that if he can't make the date, that's their out.
Okay.
And if he can make the date, I guess you can make that part of the story of the match, right? So you kind of win either way. That was Brian's follow-up later in the day. That's the last I've heard of the story. So that's the latest that I am aware of.
It seems like nobody else has followed up, or nobody else has said anything about it being legit. It feels like the only people that thought it was legit or reported that it was legit was Brian and Dave this morning on Observer Radio, and now it feels like everything is pointed towards it's just a work, and it was just a worked injury.
Well, whatever Brian said on the radio at 3:00 in the morning obviously gets usurped by what he said at 2:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
On Wrestling Observer Live. So, someone in the chat saying that Alvarez says there's a potential personal issue he has to deal with and won't be able to beat the pay-per-view. Now, I don't know what's up with that. I don't want to speculate or talk about it.
No.
Because who knows? You might end up looking like a goof, when it's something, that is very but it's kind of a tricky spot. Not knowing whether, 1/3 of your world title match isn't going to be at your pay-per-view. So
yeah, with 10 days notice. So it's tough. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. They've given themselves, an out here. So, someone else in the chat says that Sean, and I'm assuming that means Ross Sapp, also, he backed up what Brian had to say on in terms of, what I just brought up. So we've got some agreements among the reporters here. So that seems to be what the situation is. Look, I think I've settled on the side that Joe is retaining no matter what anyway. So I don't think Hangman Page was going to win the title in this match. So ultimately, I don't think it's going to matter whether he works the match or not. From that standpoint, I think they're still going to get the same end result, which is Samoa Joe coming out of this thing as champion. I think the Wardlaw promo on Dynamite kind of confirms that too, because Wardlaw, his natural issue is with Joe, not with either of the other two. He even referenced Joe in his promo. So, and honestly, I didn't like the idea of the three-way. I didn't like how they got to the three-way.
No, I'm with you.
And I don't like that they're doing a three-way anyway. So from that standpoint, from a wrestling perspective, because I don't know what the hell's going on in Hangman Page's life, I would prefer the singles match anyway with Joe and Strickland. I think what could be a problem, though, for them is if Joe is retaining, Strickland is not someone you want eating a fall right now.
Right, eating just a clean, muscle buster fall in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that would seemingly mess up his momentum right now, where he feels like a guy
it's not the right time for him to lose.
Right.
And if you had Hangman in there doing this out of his mind heel routine, he's the perfect guy to eat the fall. Where if you don't want to change the title and you don't want to beat Swerve. So that's the only thing they're going to have to come up with some kind of finish now. Unless they're putting the title on Swerve, and if that's the case. But again, it doesn't matter that Hangman's not there. Now Swerve is just going to, unless the idea was for Swerve to beat Hangman and send Hangman even deeper into the depths of insanity. Because Hangman's whole deal is, I don't want Swerve getting what he wants, and what he wants is the title. Right? So there were a couple different ways you can go with a finish. Hangman costs Swerve the match and cause him to lose. Or Hangman doesn't care whether or not he wins, and he does something stupid to cost Swerve the match and in effect cost himself the match. Right? Or you could have, if you were going to put the title on Swerve, have Swerve beat Hangman for the title, which would really make Hangman go crazy. But with Hangman out of the picture, no matter what, you're going to have to rework whatever finish you were going to do. So it'll be interesting from that perspective if he doesn't work the match.
Never a dull moment in that company, man. Never. All these pay-per-views, you can do all you want, build it all up, and then it seems like a constant at this company. Sometimes it feels like those top of the card. Always a lot of moving parts as we get to these pay-per-views. But yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. But yeah, for anybody,
we should note this too, that Jerry Lynn absolutely 100% confirmed it's an angle because he complained about people reporting the story.
Which just don't do. So just don't do that. You know what I mean? Like that. I feel like, and I saw him do that. If you want to retain the kayfabe, just don't say anything. You don't have to quote tweet Sean and say, thanks for ruining our story. It's like, Then you ruin the story by saying that. Just let it out. You know, let people speculate and wonder or whatever. But yeah, don't confirm it by saying, "Oh, thanks for ruining our story. You guys don't light anything." Like don't yell at wrestling media for reporting what's going on. But just tell your story, man. Don't worry about it.
Look, you're always going to have your portion of the audience that think people like Brian Alvarez and Sean Ross Sapp are full of shit and are distrustful.
Right? Exactly.
Right. What you just did was tell everyone that the report is true.
Right. You confirmed the report.
Right.
You're the one that's destroying kayfabe, not them.
Right. Exactly. So it's absolutely better to say nothing. I don't know if he deleted that or not, but
I saw it was still up, and I don't really want to check right now, but at last I saw it was still up. So yeah, so that's the story there. Speaking about AEW, big time hire coming into AEW. Jennifer Pepperman named AEW Vice President of Content Development. She's a former WWE writer, Daytime Emmy Award winner for her work in the soap opera world. She is joining as VP of Content Development. Soap Opera Network got the scoop here. Look at that. You don't think Soap Opera Network's going to come in with this big scoop, but they got this one here. And Tony Khan had a tweet or a quote to them saying, quote, "Adding Jennifer Pepperman's brilliant mind to the AEW team opens the door for exciting new ideas and will help us build upon the incredible stories developing on the road to AEW Revolution across our 3 weekly shows on TBS and TNT, and the effects of Jennifer's arrival in AEW will have felt for many years in the future. We're thrilled to welcome her today, and I look forward to her creatively and collaboration with our team across the board in what will be AEW's biggest year yet and beyond." So she had been WWE's longest tenured woman creative team member. She also, if you maybe remember the name, was also named in the now since dismissed Brittany Abrahams lawsuit as well. Now, that lawsuit was from last year. That was kind of if you don't remember, it was Brittany Abrahams was a writer for WWE that just basically, I don't know the exact terminology they would use, but kind of racially, about being a black woman in the WWE creative writing team, how they treated, her, how they treated members of the roster that were black. It was the stuff about not being able to write for Bianca Belair, this sort of stuff.
Right.
But Pepperman was named a lot of that.
Apollo Crews.
Right, Apollo Crews, yeah. Just kind of the idea of the stereotypes and the prejudice kind of going on around people of color in WWE and in the creative team of that. But yeah, essentially Pepperman was named in that lawsuit as well. Now again, it has been, I think the term was voluntarily dismissed. I believe Abrahams did voluntarily dismiss it, but Pepperman was named in that lawsuit for berating Abrahams and doing that sort of stuff. But anyway, that was
Pepperman was one of the 4 writers specifically named in the lawsuit.
Right.
Yeah. Now it should be noted that Pepperman is also widely known to be a close ally of Mercedes Moné.
Yeah.
And was almost sort of, for lack of a better term, the personal writer for Sasha Banks.
Right, the Brian Gewirtz. Like people are kind of saying the Rockhead Brian Gewirtz, who was like, nobody else writes my shit, Brian writes my shit. That's essentially what Pepperman was for Sasha.
And obviously Sasha Banks is a black woman. So there's obviously a conflict there. Mm-hmm. Either this woman, doesn't know how to write for African-American wrestlers, but on the other hand, the biggest African-American star in the company loved her so much that she coaxed her into quitting her job and jumping over to the other side with her. So your mileage may vary on Pepperman. Go ahead and go read the old lawsuit. It's all out there. But some of the quotes or whatnot. Here's my deal on her coming into AEW. That Tony Khan quote was very nice and very PR-ish for sure. Let's be honest. She is here as part of the Moné contract deal. Moné obviously wanted her in the fold. And didn't she resign from WWE just a couple of weeks ago?
Like literally like a week ago. Yeah. Maybe 10 days ago, but very recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Moné wanted her there. Moné's a big star. Moné's getting millions and millions of dollars. And Tony Khan is giving Moné what she wants because Moné's a big star. That's what this is. Okay. If Moné wasn't coming into AEW, Pepperman would not be coming into AEW. So Tony Khan could talk about her great creative vision, all this other such nonsense. She is there because Mercedes Moné wanted her there and wants someone on her team from the jump. And it's a wise political move. She's going to have someone there who's always on her side, who she is comfortable writing for her. And she instantly has an ally in a foreign locker room. That's what this is. And Tony wasn't going to tell her no because she's a huge star and Tony wanted to win this one and he got her.
Dakota Jones brings up a great point, a great analogy that I'm sure you will know. He says very much a, quote, college basketball team hiring a recruit's dad as an assistant coach in order to get the kid signed.
Sure.
Happens all the time.
And
a kid's uncle, a kid's dad is now an assistant coach on the team because it's like, hey, and it helps. It helps a lot.
If you're going to pay her, if you're going to pay Monet all this money, and she's like, hey, look, I really love working with this person and collaborating with them. She's a big enough star where she can throw her weight around and get the person hired. That's all there is to it. Okay? Now, my personal opinion, I think television writers are the worst thing to ever happen to pro wrestling.
And I agree with you on that.
So that's
her holding an Emmy for her work on soap operas makes me.
That's great. Go hire her for a soap. I have no use for her.
Yeah, I don't think I don't. Yeah, I've had that for 25 years of my life. The idea of soap opera writers in wrestling has done nothing but make me hate wrestling more and more and more.
But make wrestling worse. Yeah. Absolutely. So from that standpoint, she might be a wonderful soap opera writer. She's got the Emmys to prove it. Great. I have no use for these people in pro wrestling. And look, Monet was going to get what she wanted, and that's the bottom line. Okay, but the last thing I want is for AEW to go down that path of bringing in these television writers, because that's part of the reason why the WWE product has been dog shit since like the year 2000. So, if it's going to make Monet happy, great. You got to do what she says. She's a big star. You want to keep her happy, especially right from the jump. I get it. I understand the move. I get it. But I don't want AEW to be a place where we're getting that kind of writing seeping in. I want booking. This is pro wrestling.
Right. I want a booker.
AEW is supposed to be the alternative. I want booking. I don't want writing. I don't want writers. I don't want TV writers. I don't want scripted promos.
You don't want more Ruby Soho, Cool Hand Ange love stories infiltrating your Dynamite?
The kind of shit that I do not want. And that AEW should distance themselves from. And, from that standpoint, but again, this woman she would still be in WWE if Monet wasn't coming to this company.
If Monet didn't say, I want this person.
And, Tony gives her a fancy title because everybody he hires, he gives them a fancy title. They're a vice president of something. What's her title? She's some kind of vice
president of content development.
Great.
Well, go develop some content on YouTube. Don't touch my Dynamite or my Collision, okay?
So you get a fancy title. You make your big star happy. I get it. I'm not even saying I wouldn't have done the same thing. Because sometimes, it's a star-driven business and you have to make your stars happy. Don't think that The Rock's boy didn't come with him on this latest run. You mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, Brian Gewirtz, yeah.
Yeah, that's his boy. That's who writes for him. And, he works for The Rock. He works for $7 and, he was The Rock's guy, when in 1999 or whatever, in 2000 or whatever it was. So that's what this is. I don't necessarily have any fear that AEW is now going to go in that direction of bringing in Hollywood writers and, and people like that, the way that WWE went all in on that at a certain point in their history and they've never turned back. I don't think that's going to happen here. I think this is a move just to make one of their biggest stars happy. And, it is what it is. And it's a savvy move by Monet. It really is. To have someone who is presumably being paid a lot of money to jump and has the fancy title and is in that room, to have her back at all times when they're having those discussions in that room. It basically means that Monet herself is in the room. You got to admit it's savvy and it's smart.
She's a worker. She learned this business. Because this is how you do it. This is the business. The Brutus you can go through all the top stars in professional wrestling history. They all got a guy or a girl or an ally or whatever. Brutus Beefcake to Hulk Hogan, to Brian Gewirtz to The Rock. Like, you know what I mean? There's all those guys. Paul Heyman, whoever the new Paul Heyman guy is. You know what I mean? Like, those allies, they get in the room. They know how to be in the room.
Now, whenever there's dumb WWE shit on the show, I get to blame Pepperman.
Absolutely, yeah. You start from this moment here, right now, moving forward, everything you can blame on her, for sure.
Yeah.
But there you go. So, Jennifer Pepperman, whatever. All right. Let's get to, you know what? Let's just do this quickly. You want to talk about Elimination Chamber, Joe?
Yeah, you want to get Perth? Listen, sir. You're running the show, sir.
Let's do it.
I am here. I am here to serve you.
I'm still getting through MLW, Joe. Where am I at? I am an hour and 25 minutes in, baby. I only got a little bit more left to go. I'm good.
All I got waiting for me is a sink full of dishes. So I am here.
Take my time. Anything good? Did you make something good?
I never cook on Thursdays because of the show.
Okay. So just a sink full of dishes.
Just, the kitchen's my territory.
Okay.
I own the kitchen. So that's all that's waiting for me.
So you got all the time. All right. Let's talk about WWE Elimination Chamber in Perth. We are not doing an instant reaction for this show. Now, I will be awake because I wake up at 5 a.m. anyway. But
well, then let's do it.
I don't really want to. You want to do
fucking coward?
Elimination Chamber Perth? This show sounds horrible.
Yeah, it really does.
It's just, honestly, if this was a better looking show, I would say let's do it because I wake up anyway. I'd have to wake up, I think, at worst an hour earlier than I usually do. I'd be fine. You'd find a way around it. You would either just not go to bed ever or whatever. I fully expected to come on the show and say, Joe, let's do the instant reaction for the show. Then I read the show and I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this. Maybe I'll do some sort of content for it if I'm up and I watch the whole show.
Well, you joke and we joke. Here's the thing. These WWE pay-per-views.
What?
Under Levesque.
Premium live events, Joe. PLEs.
No, they're paid.
Yeah, fuck off.
They're paid.
Paul.
I don't work for them.
Yeah.
I don't work for them. I don't have to use their verbiage.
There's been a few people that have tried to have written for us over the last couple months, and they use PLE, and I every time go, no, pay-per-view. Just call them pay-per-views. I'm not calling them PLEs.
I don't listen. I don't work for them.
Right.
They're not superstars. Yeah, okay. I don't work for you. Right. I don't have to use your language.
And you don't have to use the nicknames for the people. You don't have to, we don't need any of that. We don't need.
Yeah. Now, in the case of the PLEs, I kind of see it because it's like, but here's the thing. They do still sell them as pay-per-views.
They do.
So until they stop selling them as pay-per-views, I'm just going to call them pay-per-views.
Premium live, that's a dumb term anyway.
Yeah, it's their little created fake term, like all their other creative fake terms. And if I'm not employed by them, I'm under no obligation to use those terms.
I'm not letting them win this one too. They've won all the other dumb fake term things, except for wrestling. They've never won wrestling. They've never won wrestling, which is great.
No, they have never won that. Now, I cringe every time when they have their little pressers and all these content creator geeks use all of the terms. You don't work for them. You don't have to use the terms. You don't have to say WWE superstar. You don't have to say that. Do you know how much of a fucking tool you sound like?
Hi, the Archer of Infamy. Tell me about what it's like to be a WWE superstar and your current state as senior money in the bank. Right?
No, they'll say things like, now that you're the Intercontinental Champion, which WWE superstar do you have your eyes on?
Right.
It's like you don't have to say these words. No one's going to fire you. You're not going to get yelled at in the back. You have to play these games. It's a fucking pay-per-view. Anyway.
Well, this pay-per-view sucks.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. All of the pay-per-views under Levesque are bad. Like, they're never good. The lineups stink. There's usually like 4 or 5 matches. There's like no matches on these fucking things. You get all that dead time in between the matches because they have to fit in the commercial breaks for the poor Peacock subscribers, and then the people who pay for the commercial-free Peacock get a different commercials
or you get longer video packages because some people, if you don't pay, did you know that if you don't pay for the Peacock, you don't get all the video packages? Can you imagine not getting a WWE Premium Live Event video package before your matches? That would be just awful.
So you get all this dead time between the fucking 5 matches that they're giving you. If you're lucky. if you're lucky, if Gunther is on the show, you might get a good match or two if you're lucky. But the vast majority of the matches are going to fucking stink. Levesque cannot book pay-per-views. Go look at his pay-per-view history. He's got a couple good ones. They're mostly bad. We usually come on here and destroy these pay-per-views. And let me tell you something. Oh, well, that's you guys. You guys hate WWE. All right. Arm raised. Guilty as charged.
You nailed it. Nailed it. Yeah.
But there have been many times in the history of this company and the history of this show, Rich, where we have praised their pay-per-view.
Oh, they had a run even a couple years ago where we were talking about how, hey, we hate the day-to-day show, but they've had a run of 6, 7, 8 months of these pay-per-views that have been really, really good. And we talked about it last year at this exact time. We came on and praised Elimination Chamber last year at this time. We came on and praised, a certain, even the Royal Rumble last year, I think we both liked and really enjoyed. I mean, there was a time not that long ago where they had a very good run of pay-per-views. They have not had a good run of pay-per-views lately. They've been atrocious.
Most of Levesque pay-per-views stink. And these weird shows with like 5 matches.
Right. And the dead time, it cannot be understated how much dead time. And that's a big reason why I don't actually like to watch these things live, because you can skip so much of this if you don't care. And this one, trust me, because this one is in Perth, Australia, obviously, paid for by the government in that region. I forget if it was based off, whatever. I don't know who's paying for it, but someone in that region is paying for WWE to come here, whether it's the city or the state. Or I don't know how Australia, politics or any of that sort of stuff works. So what you're going to get is what you get on the Saudi Arabian shows, where you're going to get a video package and then a tourist video about Perth or a tourist video about Australia. And then you're going to get a match, and then you're going to get 3 video packages, an interview, a video package, and then another commercial about Perth. And it's like, oh my God, if you don't watch these things live, you can just blitz through these shows. Like, I forget what the most recent one was. Not the Royal Rumble, because I watched that one live, but the one before that, I forget what it was. I was able to watch that thing, or maybe, who cares? Whatever. I was able to watch that thing in like an hour and 45 minutes. And I was like, man, if you just watch the matches, and especially if you skip the entrances, because one of the big things about WWE is their fucking entrances and the song and dance, and this guy raises his arm this way, and then the pyro goes this way, and then this person spins and then stomps the ground, and then the pyro goes. You skip all that bullshit because you've seen 1,000 of them. The show, once the bell rings, if you watch bell to bell, these shows blow by. So watching them live is just a fucking chore, because you have to watch all these dumb entrances. You have to watch all these dumb videos. You have to watch the recaps of the matches that they do of the show that you're watching. You know what I mean? Like, that's my favorite thing too. 2 hours into this, pay-per-view, we got to do a recap video for the match that started the show. I've been watching it, brother. I don't need to see a recap of what just happened an hour ago. But that's what these fans love. The AEW doesn't do enough of this stuff, We need to recap everything 7 times over, because that's the way to do it.
Their pay-per-views are not good. Now, their audience eats them up. Their audience eats up everything, though. Our audience, and that's who we are previewing these shows for. These shows they're very rarely good. Now, we are told by Kevin Chiat that this stadium holds about 60,000 people for a sporting event, and the record in this building is 73,000 people for an Ed Sheeran concert last year. So use that as your guide. Now, I know they're going to have their big stage set up and everything, and I don't know how many tickets are being offered. I guess we could look that up on WrestleTix if we really needed to. But I think they were about 40,000 tickets out or so as of not that long ago, and they were doing some ticket packages, 4 tickets for the price of 3 and things like that to kind of fill out the rest of the seats. I'm not going to sit here and knock a show with an attendance of over 40,000. So that's not what I'm doing. And of course, the show is bought and paid for. So they're going to make their money regardless on something like this for all the reasons Rich just said.
Right.
There are some satellite events. The Undertaker is doing a one-man show at a prison. I'm not making any of that up.
That is, by the way, none of that is untrue. That's exactly... That is exactly
Soy face Undertaker is in Australia as we speak. And have you seen his soy face YouTube videos, Rich?
I have, and it's infuriating to see.
Yeah,
it's so bad. Remember with this guy? He used to be so fucking protective of him and his character. There was decades where you never knew what this guy was into, what he did in his real life. You just knew him as the Undertaker, and that he would always say, "Oh, I'm very protective of everything that I do." And now he's doing shocked face YouTube videos and doing a one-man show in a prison in Australia.
Well, that's how you know he's really done.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, at the Fremantle prison, he's doing a one-man show. Okay. Now this isn't exactly, Johnny Cash playing for the inmates. This prison has been shut down for decades now and is a event venue. So, but still pretty funny that he's doing what does a Undertaker one-man show constitute? What does he do? Does he play a little banjo? Does he?
I think
what's he doing?
He walks around and answers questions about working with Triple H. I don't know. Yeah, something stupid.
So all right, I'll be like, is he saying, "Oi, mate, oi, when you threw the mankind off of the top of the roof, oi, did you think he was dead? Oi," like that kind of shit.
Yeah, and he just sits on his stool and goes like, "Oh yeah, this guy's tough as nails." Yeah. Just mumble some bullshit answer that will then get, I'm sure content creators will be there taking videos of it, so we'll have 19 different angles of him answering questions poorly. So I can't wait.
Oi, mate. Which of the Heartbreak Kid matches did you think was the best cracker, mate? Oi, crikey, like that kind of shit.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Complete with your horrifically out of date Australia, like 1990 comedian level Australia accent.
I thought that was a pretty good Australian.
That's not bad.
accent.
Yeah, actually, to be honest.
It's hard. Australia and British.
You got to be careful. Very, very different, but hard to make that difference when you're doing like if you're not speaking it, it's very hard to make it to do it.
You can mix those up very easily. And then
you just got the oys in there. That really helps you too. The oys really.
Crikey, just throw a crikey in when you're
You're
lost.
basically just doing the bushwhackers, who are New Zealanders, but that's fine. It's close enough. You don't know what's going to call.
Yeah, I'm not doing the bushwhackers at all, Rich. It's a completely different country. You always do that. I gotta tell you, this Craich.
No, I'm saying you're doing a bushwhackers, but they're not even. You sound like the bushwhackers, but you're not. They're from New Zealand.
I sound like an authentic Australian person. Okay. I do not sound like the bushwhackers who are from New Zealand.
You're a real Adam Brooks over there. I can't even tell. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You can't. It's
Grayson Waller. Yeah, that's
Grayson Waller.
He's going to be on the show. He's going to be there. Yeah, the Grayson.
See?
You know what the best thing
that was?
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't even tell. If you were playing a clip.
You thought it was him.
The best. I want to just say, because by the way, Cody and Seth are going to be on the show, but they're going to be doing a Grayson Waller effect segment. So great. I love that we've been talking about this from the moment that they signed this guy. I forget when they signed him. I forget what year it was. It was like 2019 or something like that when they signed the former Maddie Wahlberg, the current Grayson Waller. And we said, when are they going to realize that they have Moneyball Miz on their roster and they can use him anytime they want and they can let the Miz go? They're spending X amount of millions of dollars for the Miz when they have the Miz on the roster right now for probably $250,000 or $400,000 or whatever. I don't know how much Grayson Waller makes or was making at that time, but they had Moneyball Miz on the roster for years and never used them. I'm glad finally now. Maybe it was the Nick Khan influence saying, wait a minute, what about this guy who does the exact same thing that the Miz does, but we only have to pay him 1/90th of what we're paying the Miz, and now here we are, Grayson Waller, the Grayson Waller effect. Now he is now the current chicken shit asshole that does an interview segment that gets heels or gets baby faces upset with him. So it's fantastic. They finally done it. We could have saved them a lot of money for 5 years, but you know what? That's fine.
You couldn't even tell whether it was me or Davis Storm on the other side of this
Our
mic.
boy Davis Storm, yeah.
You had no idea. Okay? From Perth, by the way.
Yeah.
From Perth. That's an EPW guy. I always forget which side of the country Grayson Waller worked on.
Yeah.
Was he a Perth or a Melbourne guy?
I want to say he was MCW. I want to say he was MCW.
No, well, you would be wrong. He was a EPW guy.
Okay.
Maddie Wahlberg. PWA Black Label.
Where was PWA, though?
That's like
Were they more Sydney? They were more Sydney area, yeah.
No, well, he's from Sydney. PWA.
Oh, okay. I thought the PWA was based in Sydney, though.
The promotion?
Yeah, I thought they were, but maybe I'm wrong. Robbie Eagles and the likes and
they are.
Velocities.
Yeah,
okay, all right, yeah.
Where the fuck is Sydney? Let's look it up.
Well, yeah, this is always the problem with Australia, too, where, one time we were talking to her, Davis Storm, about something.
That's a big country.
It's very big. It's like when you talk about your mom talking about Texas, and she's like, oh, he lives in Houston now. You're like, great. What does that mean to me? That means nothing. That's so many hours away from me, Mom. But, like, one time Davis Storm we were talking to him about some show in Australia, and we're like, yeah, you're going to get booked on that show? And he's like, well, it's like 19 hours away, so no. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like asking somebody from America, hey, there's a West Coast Pro show this weekend. You get booked on that? And he's like, no, I live in Delaware. No, I'm not going to. All
right, so let's
go to San Francisco for an indie show.
Sydney's on the East Coast. Perth is on the West Coast. Melbourne is south, right, like in the middle.
Okay, all right.
So now that's been settled.
Great.
I just didn't know where. I had. Nobody cares. I had Melbourne wrong. I had Melbourne and Sydney mixed up. I knew where Perth was.
Well, this shows. Go on.
Perth to Sydney is like you're saying. It's like from California to New York. It's preposterous.
Pretty far, yeah.
They can't work the same. Yeah, it's not the same people.
Right. You're not making a town. You're not making a weekend town. Driving through the outback for 19 hours or whatever to do that. But anyway, this show is happening in Perth, and it is terrible. So as we mentioned, Cody and Seth are going to be on the Grayson Waller effect. So some fireworks should truly emerge from that one, I'm sure, Joe. Rhea Ripley will spin around and stomp her foot, and she'll also defend the WWE Women's World title against Nia Jax. Rhea Ripley and Nia Jax. We have a WWE World Heavyweight title #1 contendership elimination chamber match. Randy Orton, Bobby Lashley, Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, LA Knight, and Logan Paul. We'll also have a WWE Women's World title #1 contendership elimination chamber match. Becky Lynch, Naomi, Liv Morgan, Bianca Belair, Raquel Rodriguez, Tiffany Stratton. You might be wondering, wait, no Jade Cargill again? No Jade Cargill. They had her in the background of one of the promos and then somehow decided that she shouldn't be in this match, and then instead Raquel Rodriguez is in this match. So she did the Rumble, and another star-making performance for Jade Cargill. And follow-up has been nothing.
In all seriousness, it tells me that they probably had her earmarked to win and then changed their mind and then said, why would we want her to lose?
Right, we don't want her to lose or whatever. So.
Probably something like that, yeah.
I feel like at some point you're going to have to take the kids' gloves off, right? We're going to have to actually do something or push her or put her on TV. Or...
I've seen others make this point, but it's true. I don't know what they're worried about because their audience does not fucking care anyway. They don't care if she stinks. They're going to say that she cooks and that she's great no matter what she does. She could go in there and blow 4 spots in a row. They're still going to say she looked great. It does not matter with their audience. So I don't think at this point, I think, yes, at some point it was, oh, wow, she's not good.
After the Rumble, it's like, all right, we gotta.
Right. I think now it's more a matter of when's the right time to really get her in the mix because we want to push her and make her look good. I don't think it's a matter of we don't think she can wrestle. I don't think that's it. It may have been at the beginning. In fact, we know it was because Triple H said it was. But now I don't think that's the factor anymore. You don't have to get her. There's only a certain level of competency that you need.
Yeah, what are we doing here? This isn't fucking Akira Hokuto out there. It's like she can't be. She's worse than Nia Jax. I don't believe.
No.
If you can't tailor a match around her abilities in this company, in this era, you absolutely can. What the fuck are you guys doing?
I don't even think Jade is good, and I think she's better than half the people in NXT.
That's what I'm saying. Just by presence alone, just come out and accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. What can you do? Cool. Just do that. Come out, hit your big power moves, flex, and then we're good. That's all you need to do. Who cares? It's weird. It's just strange. I don't get it. Yeah, I got it up until the Rumble, but after the Rumble, it was like, all right, the Band-Aid's ripped off. Go. Let's do something here. But you're right. Who knows? And then if you're wondering, hey, where are the title matches? What other matches you have? Well, I got one other match, baby, and it's for the Raw Tag Team titles and the SmackDown Tag Team titles because the Judgment Day have both, defending them against the New Catch Republic of Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. Yes, they are now a tag team, and their name is the New Catch Republic. British strong style.
Yeah.
No more. The New Catch
back
Republic.
To Pete Dunne. He's back to Pete Dunne at least.
Yeah, he's not Butch anymore.
That was nonsense.
And Tyler Bate, after 9 years in developmental, is finally on the main roster. Finally good enough to work.
Yeah. The tag team name stinks, but, ultimately that doesn't matter. And, I don't know.
Who cares? Nothing
it's
matters.
Hard to be,
Eat at Arby's.
Yeah, it's hard to be excited about anything in that company. I mean, I don't, it's not for us. It's not for most of the people who listen to this. Not all, but, I try to find bits and pieces that I could get into, and it's, but I will say this isn't a very good show.
No. Unless you love Elimination Chamber matches, which, let me tell you, I do not. So,
I mean, I guess their fan base will eat it up, though. Like we always say, I was going to say, like, if I'm an Australian fan, I've been waiting years. This is what I get. I'd be like, what? This is the show. But
no, dude, that fucking thing that damn sound, and then the lights are going to go, and then Liv Morgan's chamber is going to light up, and they're going to go, yeah! Then Liv Morgan's going to come in and punch some people and hit some people with a kendo stick, and they're going to love it. So
there's 4 fucking matches on this show. And the Grayson Waller effect. That's it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Davis. That's it. On this whole fucking show.
Yeah. Do you remember when people were convinced that The Rock was going to return and wrestle for the first time in a decade on this show?
Well, I mean, shit. If I'm Seth Rollins, I'm like, dude, I have one fucking leg, and you want me to fly 17 hours back and forth to go on the Grayson Waller effect. Like, what the fuck?
Right. Have Grayson Waller sit at the table with his fucking palm trees and be like, oi, Cody.
Oi, crikey, oi. Yeah.
Nobody wants your title. And it's like,
Yeah.
It says, like, what is it to you, Grayson? It's like, what the fuck? What is going on?
Seth, if there's a time to pull rank, buddy.
Right.
This would be the time to say, look, we can do this on Raw.
Yeah, I don't need to go to Perth to do this.
Now, Cody, he's a psychopath. He'll go anywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
See, Cody, we're thinking of going to Antarctica to shoot an angle. Yeah, sure, no problem. Bring the dog.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to bring my dog.
Right.
Yeah, no problem. Bring the dog. The dog and Liberty. Is that his daughter's name?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bring them all. Bring the whole gang. But Seth, he don't need to do this shit.
No. Maybe Becky's already got to go, so he figures out just go with her.
That, you know what? You make a good point.
Right. Maybe they're bringing the kid. If I was Becky, I'd say, Seth, keep the kid at home. Let's just.
No, you're right. Maybe they're bringing the kid, or maybe
they got a babysitter. They're going to have a great weekend in Perth.
We're going to go to Perth. Exactly. You know what? You make a great point. We're going to fuck our brains out in an Australian hotel room.
Well, not too much, because the knee is still affected. He's still got it.
He knows that she can please him quite well.
Right.
And
we know
they're going to take care of that without a doubt. So I do think that's, and go to do whatever it is you do in Perth. I don't know.
What does one do in Perth?
Maybe they can. Well, you can go to the EPW Australian Wrestling Super Show.
You'll be doing that. Yeah.
Which is on February 23rd. So, yeah, if you're wondering if there's satellite events, EPW is in fact running, as well they should. Very smart of them to run. All the stars are there. I shouldn't say that because then people think I'm mocking. Not all the stars, like really all the EPW stars are there. So, Robbie Eagles is on the show. They got a big multi-man main event. The State of Origin Challenge, which is some kind of Australian thing that poor Kevin tried to make sense of it. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. Here's what he said. Equivalent of the NBA All-Star Game, it used to be a big deal in Australian rules football, but went away in the 90s. It's a huge deal in rugby league for New South Wales, Queensland, and seen as being more important than the National Rugby League Grand Final. So the State of Origin, I don't know what any of that means. It's some kind of playoff of some kind of sports all-star game that they do in Australia, but it's Team Western Australia, Taylor King, Davis Storm, Alex Kingston, and Mikey Nichols versus Team Victoria, Slex, The Business, Adam Brooks, Mitch Waterman, and Caveman Ugg.
So these guys
match.
are playing rugby? Oh no, they're wrestling. They're wrestling. They're not playing
wrestling.
rugby. Oh, okay, I thought they were playing rugby
it's
for a minute.
Named after the rugby game.
Okay, I get it. For a second there, I was like, that actually sounds sick. I want to see Flex the business. I bet he's a pretty mean. I bet all those guys are pretty mean rugby players or Australian rules football.
Rugby.
That's
yeah,
as you're listening to this, I'm like, man, this sounds awesome.
But I think it's like if there was if an American promotion did a gimmick main event and called it the Pro Bowl.
Right.
Like that's kind of what this is. So Western Australia versus Victoria. Robbie Eagles against Hayden Zenith. I'm not familiar with Hayden Zenith. Is there a title match for what's their top title? Is that the Coastal title or is that something else? Do you remember?
I'm kind of out of the loop on the Australian promotions. We haven't really followed them.
We've not had our finger on it.
I believe it is the Coastal Championship. Yeah, you're right. It says the current champion is Bruno Nitro. So unless Bruno Nitro is listed.
He's defending the title against Matt Hayter. But I can never remember whether they consider that their top title.
Or because they have a heavyweight title, too. They have a heavyweight title. Taylor King has their heavyweight title. So I don't know if the Coastal or the heavyweight is the bigger title. I forget as well.
Right. But a quick look at the title histories. It looks like a lot of the top stars have kind of held both. So I know the Coastal title is a newer title. I think the heavyweight title is their top title. I think. Yes, as a matter of fact, now that I look at this, because all those Mikey Nichols matches I used to review when he was their champion for like 3 years or whatever it was, that's the title it was for.
Okay, all right.
So, Taylor King is the heavyweight champion, and he's in the gimmick match at the end. So, but anyway, the point here is EPW is running on the 23rd. Is that the same date as the
chamber is because it's technically it's a little funky for our. I guess it's technically the 24th.
The date there.
It's the 24th. It's the 24th.
All right, so EPW is running the day before.
Yeah.
All right, so that's that's a very dire looking elimination chamber.
That is not great. Yeah, I fully expected to tell you, Joe, hey, you know what, fuck it, let's do an instant reaction, but I can't see myself really wanting to talk about this show afterwards. But we'll see. I will probably be watching it live, but we'll see if I do any content or you have to wait till next week to get our review of Elimination Chamber. But we'll see. Pretty dire, as you said. All right, let's talk about something that was not dire at all. Let's get to the world of RevPro here, because RevPro had what I thought an awesome top-to-bottom show, High Stakes 2024. This, of course, is main evented by Michael Oku and Will Ospreay. We'll talk about that match here in a minute. But I thought top to bottom, this was a really, really, really good show for RevPro. It has the same trappings of every RevPro show where the production is pretty terrible, commentary is loud and sometimes obnoxious. But I don't know. I thought the show pretty much, there was maybe one match that I didn't like, and I think we all kind of have the same match that we all didn't like. But I thought most of the rest of the show was pretty damn good. And obviously the main event, which we should talk about off the top, right now has a 9.5 on Cage Match, and that's the RevPro Undisputed British Heavyweight title match. Michael Oku defending against Will Ospreay. 47 minutes and 12 seconds. Dave Meltzer has been raving about this match ever since it happened. You know, you and I went on the show 2 years ago when Oku and Ospreay had their match and just raved about that one. And this one, man, I don't know if I think I liked it more than I'd like to watch them more back to back. I think I'd like to watch them back to back to kind of see, or at least at this point, watch the one from 2 years ago to kind of compare, because I still have this one fresh in my mind. But I really love this match. I thought this was just a phenomenal, phenomenal match. It's obviously Will Ospreay's farewell to RevPro for now, his farewell to British wrestling for now. And Oku, it's kind of his seminal moment here, finally beating Will Ospreay. It's a seminal moment for RevPro in general. You know, he uses, Mad Kurt, the recently passed away Mad Kurt, he uses one of his moves in the match as well. So it was just a big, big story, and it was big and voluminous. And I understand why some people, didn't like this thing, because it's 47 minutes. There's a lot to it, but I thought this is a phenomenal, phenomenal match. And we'll get into the details of it here in a bit. But what did you think of Oku versus Ospreay?
Well, what's this one bad match that you think everyone's going to agree on? Because I'm curious what you think.
Shingo and Trent 7. Shingo and Trent 7.
Really?
It was long. It wasn't bad.
I thought there were worse matches than that on the show.
Okay. We'll have to see if we get to the same one.
Good. I didn't think anything on the show was bad. If I'm going to be honest. Well, I didn't really like the women's match, but everything else at minimum was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah. I thought Shingo and Trent, bad might be strong, long. It was long, and it felt like a match that could have been done in like 11 minutes, and they made it 21 minutes. But I guess ultimately they worked pretty hard, and they got the crowd into it at the end. But I don't know. That one was a bit of a slog for me to get through. But everything else I think I liked. I think I liked the women's match probably more than you did, and everything else as we kind of break it down, I think we're probably pretty similar on all those, if you agree with me that everything else is pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good show, top to bottom. But as far as the main event, I mean, I'm not going to say anything anyone else hasn't been saying. I thought it was a great fucking match. And I think, look, 47 minutes and 12 seconds is really long. Okay. And I think that you and I follow RevPro pretty closely. You're on top of every big show, and you have been for years. You watch a lot of the shows that aren't the big shows, so I watch, I think I probably watch a little more of RevPro than you.
Right. You watch everything. You watch even like the live at the cockpits and stuff. And I think I skip most of those, but
yeah, I mean, I'll watch almost everything, occasionally if I'm short on time and I look at a lineup and I'll be like, but yeah, so we're on top of RevPro is the point. And I think for people like us who saw the first match between these two, follow the promotion, know what's going on storyline wise, know all the nuances. The 47 minutes and 12 seconds isn't nearly as intimidating as it would be for someone who heard how great the match is. They don't pay any attention to RevPro, and they're going to parachute in to watch the match. 47 minutes is a lot to ask someone. If there was a great match of the year contender in a promotion, I'll give you in Stardom, right? And I saw that it was 47 minutes.
A lot of their matches are. A lot of their big time matches are. Yeah.
Yeah. A promotion that I don't follow at all. And I wouldn't know anything about the story coming in. It'd be a challenge for me even to be motivated enough to click play.
Mm-hmm. Or to understand the finality of this one as well. That's another reason why it was so long, is because it was telling so many stories and concluding so many stories as well. Yeah. But again, if you just swooped in because you heard it was a good match, you don't know about all that sort of stuff. You haven't lived through the Oku experience. You haven't lived through Ospreay in RevPro, and you haven't lived through Oku and Ospreay having their matches before. If you just kind of swoop in, I get it. Yeah, it would be very intimidating.
But if you follow the promotion, this was a great fucking match because from an execution standpoint, I thought both guys were incredible. Will Ospreay's always incredible. And this was a particularly good night for him. I thought his offense in particular during the portion of the match where he was just beating the living shit out of Oku was so great. And I thought that Oku was incredible selling the beating. And Oku, it's the perfect role for him because he is a great, great sympathetic babyface in front of the right crowd.
Right.
And this is the right crowd. In front of these crowds that have a connection with him, and where he's over, and where they've seen his, entire career play out. And the one strength he has always had is that crowd connection to the local fans where he's from in the UK. He is not a good, but a great sympathetic babyface in taking a beating. And Ospreay in dealing the beating was exceptional.
Yeah.
Okay. And
that's what the first match really was. For people that didn't see it, the first match was essentially just Ospreay beating this kid within an inch of his life. And I say kid in the sense that, because that's kind of the story they're telling. I don't think the age-wise, I think Oku might actually be older than Ospreay. But the idea is, here's big, strong Will Ospreay. It's unbelievable that we're at this point now where Ospreay's big and strong.
Worldwide superstar.
Right, worldwide superstar, big, strong, giant, global superstar Will Ospreay beating on the local guy. It had very much like I know you hate ECW comparisons, but it kind of had like a little bit of like a Mikey Whipwreck type of thing to it or whatever, where it's just like, here's this guy that, hey, we all like him here, and oh shit, here's this guy, and oh god, he's just beating the living fuck out of this kid. And that's what the first match was, is Ospreay really finally fully seeing through his heel character at the time when he was really starting to kind of do it, and a complete change in what Will Ospreay's character and his wrestling style was, because the match was just absolutely beating Oku within an inch of his life. And that's what the match was the first time.
Yeah, and then that's what they were replicating here. And then and then the closing stretch. Now look, here's the point I was going to make though. Yeah, the match probably will come across as excessive and too long if you're parachuting in. I get it. But if you're locked into the story and you follow the promotion, or if you at minimum saw the first match, I don't think the match is too long. It didn't feel too long to me when I was watching it because I understand the story and I was invested and the work was so good and this match was so good that I didn't think the 47 minutes was too long, and I didn't think the well over an hour start to finish entrances to post match was too long either.
I agree. I was locked in the whole time. I was locked in 100%.
Yeah, they needed that. You know, they filled that amount of time properly for what they were trying to do. But you know, I get it. If you're not in that situation, you just drop in. But I still do think that you can. This is the kind of match that you can drop in on, and if you can have the patience to watch a 47-minute match where you don't really know what's going on, you're still going to appreciate this match on some level and think that the wrestling is just exceptional.
Right. They had a great promo package before, too. So it's not like anybody watching this. If you want to watch the promo that they played before the match, you'll get the entire story right there. Yeah, so I don't buy that. It's like, oh, my God, I can't watch this because I don't know the story. It's like, the promo package has the story for you.
Basically, is my long-winded way of saying I could see why someone who didn't understand, who may not be super invested in the promotion, would think it was excessive, including all of the kickouts at the end and stuff too. But to me, all of the kickouts and the near falls fit the story as well. This wasn't some random indie match where two guys are just trying to have an epic bout with no real context and no story, and they're just kicking out of each other's shit. Okay? There was a reason and a purpose for Michael Oku being able to withstand all of Will Ospreay's best stuff at the end of this match. So even from that standpoint is what I mean when I say some people might find a lot of this match excessive, but I did not, because, and I don't think a lot of people who follow the promotion did either, because everything they did fit the story being told, including all of those kickouts, including surviving the two hidden blades and the tiger and the sequence with the tiger driver and the hidden blade and the stormbreaker. Okay. Because the story of this was Michael Oku withstanding all of that from Will Ospreay and proving he can beat him and take his best shot.
But then also at 1.2,
level.
And also 1.2 with Oku, because he lifted Ospreay up the 2 times too. Also being a little bit too worried about trying to, make a statement there and almost losing the match because of it. Picking the guy up and saying, no, I'm going to do one more thing to him, picking him up and doing one more thing, and nearly getting caught on it, which is also kind of, another Oku thing is like, maybe sometimes he gets a little too cocky and he's not the goody two shoes, white meat baby face that a lot of other guys. He does have an edge to him here, and here he is now, this guy that's beating on him, that just got done kicking his I don't know if they're married or whatever, his wife, his partner, whatever, Amira, just got done kicking her, throwing his blood on a towel at her or whatever, and he doesn't want to just beat this guy in a professional wrestling match. He wants to beat this guy and embarrass him for what he's done to him. So he lifts him up twice and nearly gets caught from it and nearly loses because of it.
Yeah, because he wants to give Will the same kind of beating that Will has given him and all that. Yeah, look, it was a great match with a great story. And look, Michael Oku's stuff a lot of times is way too excessive. He's very much influenced by the NXT style, the old NXT style, the Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano NXT. Like, that's very much what Oku's about. And a lot of his matches do lose me. There's no doubt about it. But this one did not, because the story of this and everything really fit the style and the kind of match that they were. And it was great and it was special. And then the execution of everything was pitch perfect. What I can do without, it really grosses me the fuck out, and it's becoming a trend. Hangman and Swerve did it. Stop eating other people's blood. I can't take it, Rich.
Yeah, we are probably at
it's fucking disgusting. I can't deal with it. Like, I'm not like a real squeamish person, but Will Ospreay wiping up Oku's blood on his finger and then sucking his finger. You don't need that. That doesn't add anything. Swerve and Hangman drinking each other's blood. I mean, I can't take it. It's fucking disgusting. But it was an incredible match. I mean, I don't. all the superlatives have been said. I think, the cage match rating is fair. I think it's sitting at 9.5 right now or something.
Yeah, it was. Let me see what it is right now, because it was 9.5 when I put the notes in for the show. It is 9.51 right now, so it's actually going up.
Yeah, I mean, it was actually at like 9.9 for a while, and obviously it's cage match; those things level off. But yeah, just an incredible match, and Ospreay, his speech afterwards. You could tell it's from the heart, and Tony Khan was there, and and then that it elevated playing, and just like in Japan, that one point in the song they all go Ospreay, Ospreay, you can feel the emotion, everybody in the building chanting it, and Zack Sabre Jr. came out, and they had a quick embrace and whispered some things to each other, and that was a really good moment because those two guys. They just kept their head down.
They're it,
worked
man.
hard.
Yeah, they're RevPro. They represent RevPro more than that's
and that whole British scene and they kept their head down and worked hard and they won. And I know a lot of people are annoyed with that. Too bad. They won because they kept their head down and Zack Sabre Jr. did the right thing by disconnecting off of social media. I don't care if that's an unpopular take. I've had it from the start and I have it now. He did the right thing. He just ignores the noise. Just ignores it. And Ospreay, same thing. He grew up a lot. He grew up right in front of our eyes. He's gotten better at ignoring the noise. Just works hard. Best wrestler in the world, 5 years going, and he won. And and Zach came out there and they had that quick hug and said whatever they said to each other. And a lot of times, each of those guys, for some reason, were made the main character of speaking out, which was woefully unfair to both of them, and they won. And good for them. And that'll annoy some people. I don't care. And that's true because that was never fair. Never fair. Why? Because they were the accessible ones after the ones that deserved to be run off got run off.
Right. And so, the other ones disappeared. So you had to.
So now, yeah, and that was never fair. Good for Zach for ignoring it and good for them for having that little moment. And, I thought that was a nice little moment at the end of that show as well. And, so very similar to the scene in Osaka last week in New Japan for Will. And now he full-time AEW starting next week on Dynamite. And onward and upward for him. I'm sure, just like last week, where I am 100% certain he'll be back in New Japan someday. I am 1,000,000% certain he'll be back in RevPro. I mean, the AEW, New Japan, RevPro, CMLL kind of alliance, it's so great. I don't know if I could hand pick 4 promotions I'd rather have be intertwined with each other. It's perfect. I've always said that CMLL is my preferred lucha promotion. I know you feel the same way because AAA is just a dumpster fire.
AAA stinks. Yeah.
And RevPro, man, we respect everything Andy has done. He, through COVID, through speaking out, another guy who just kept his nose down and worked. And did all the right things.
Yeah, and Will goes hand in hand with that as well. For people that do not know or people that weren't around, 4 years ago when that sort of happened. So obviously you have the pandemic. Right when the pandemic starts, you have all this speaking out situation with felt like almost all of British wrestling got just completely just destroyed by this thing. It just felt like a complete gut. And while other companies were scrambling and doing code of conducts and all this crap on social media to try to get back pats and everybody to say, oh, yeah, no, we've changed, we've done this. And then the next guy would come and they'd be like, wait, that guy was a sex pest too. And they're like, oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, our bad. It was all this dumb. And it was just like all this, for these companies, it felt very performative at certain times, with progress and whatnot of just and like you said, a lot of the guys that got involved in this thing just went away, just disappeared. And whoever was left was getting the brunt of the assault and getting the brunt of people's, anger. And what happened was RevPro basically said, look, to survive, we're going to have to do stuff. We're going to have to, all these other companies said we can't run. It's the pandemic. We're going to go away. And that, hey, more power to them. That's what they did. RevPro said, look, we need to run shows if we're going to survive. So they got everybody tested. They put everybody up in a hotel for a week. And once a month, they got everybody together, recorded all these shows, recorded these wrestling shows in this empty room in some random place. I forget where the hell it even was.
I may have even been in the hotel. I'm not even positive.
I don't even remember. Maybe in a conference room of the hotel or whatever. Did these shows, got everybody together for a month and
keep the flame going.
And produce great pandemic wrestling, like some of the best
pandemic wrestling.
Some of the best
pandemic wrestling.
Yeah,
and kept the promotion alive. And Will Ospreay worked all those shows, or the vast majority of those shows. People got paydays. People stayed in the public light and fresh in people's minds. And Andy just quietly did the work, ignored the noise. When he had to get rid of people that had to go, he simply got rid of them.
Yeah.
No grandstanding, no silly fucking codes of conduct that no one cares about. None of that nonsense. Just doing the right things. That's all. Someone's got to go. They go.
Right. Get the sex pests out of here. Get all these assholes out of here. But we don't have to, grandstand about it and please give us back
great
pats.
We are for it.
Right.
Pat ourselves on the back. Create a code of conduct. Listen to all these goofs on Twitter. None of that. Just do the right things and do the work, and that's what he did. And now they're the last one standing, and they're the biggest promotion in the country, and they deserve it. And they deserve it because they just they kept their mouths shut, kept their noses down, and worked and produced good wrestling and did all the right things without being showy about it or grandstanding or anything else, or feeling like they had to answer to anybody. No, they just did what they had to do and did it right.
Right,
and it paid off. And maybe it is, to some extent, a new batch of fans. Good. Maybe that's what needed to happen. Maybe creating new fans is good. And I'm not even blaming fans who were run off by speaking out. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah,
that
it was
scene was
awful.
a fucking cesspool.
Yeah.
I don't blame anybody for not being in the wrestling over there anymore. But maybe RevPro did a good thing and created some new fans.
Right. Well, we have an article
building that Crystal Palace.
Absolutely, we have an article right now on voiceswrestling.com by Ian Hamilton, who's done a lot of work in that scene and been there for years and years and years before most of us even knew about that wrestling scene in Britain. He's been there covering it or whatnot, and he wrote an article that was actually pretty interesting. That those companies that everybody kind of still looks at to say, oh God, British wrestling is dying. Your Progresses, these other, name whatever one you want to. These companies that are just dying on the husk and just not even around anymore and just completely gone or whatever. Other than RevPro, those companies have all kind of fallen by the wayside and nobody cares about them and nobody talks about them anymore and they don't really matter. But there are a lot of other companies in Britain and in Europe that are doing well and are drawing crowds. And like you said, we don't hear about them. We don't know about them. They're not talked about on Twitter as much. They're not reviewed on podcasts as much, but they're out there putting 1,000 people in buildings or whatnot. And I love that Ian did that article because when he presented it to me, I was like, yeah, sounds great. It sounds like a really cool thing because I didn't even know about that either.
And then you learned a little something.
Yeah, I learned something about these 5 different promotions. And he said, look, these guys are putting put a lot of people in these houses. And he sent me a link to one of these and there was a ton of people at this show. And I'm like, what the fuck? I think it was called Mega Slam was the name of the promotion. I'm going to link it in the show notes and I'll put it in the chat right now for people that are listening live. But it's called The British Wrestling Scene Dead or a Sleeping Giant, and it brings up a very good point about how, leave those old husks alone. All those companies, who cares? ICW and Progress, and fuck them. They're gone. They're in the past. They did all their shit. The fans that are still have ill will towards those promotions, you are well in your right to do that. But maybe those fans have moved on, and those promotions have moved on. But now there's a new wave kind of coming up here, maybe led by RevPro. Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah, and I get the sense that it is a new batch of fans, and that's, I think, a good thing. And Will Ospreay deserves a lot of credit because he could have hand-waved the whole scene and said, you know what, it's a mess, it's a cesspool, it's going to be too much work. But no, he helped get the new wave over. Give Oku credit too. And now there's a whole million. We've talked a million times about all the young talent that RevPro has, and some of them wrestled on this show, and and now we'll see how they do without it. Now, I love that building. I love this Crystal Palace that they've been running. I know they can't run York Hall for whatever reason, and I know that building is kind of synonymous with RevPro. I think this building looks great on camera. It looks like, especially the hard cam, with the rising bleacher seats that are visible, and I just think this building makes for good aesthetics, and you could fit a lot of people in there. And I think it's kind of represents a new era of this promotion too. So, and I thought the show was excellent, and I thought the crowd was great, and can't say enough about how great Will Ospreay is and how great he's been for this scene during these rough years in help getting it rebuilt. So,
yeah, so it was an emotional night. Yeah, it was definitely emotional that, you know, the final scene of Oku finally beating this guy, vanquishing him once and for all. Like I mentioned, he did the now it was before the Mad Kurt character came to be, but the move that Kurt used to use, I think the Sega Mega Driver or something, I think was the name of it. He used that and then hit, I think, the frog splash off the top to get the pin. So a little bit of a symbolism there too towards, you know, somebody that was in this scene and has since passed or whatever. So that was really cool to see. But yeah, I think Amira played her role great as well in this match as Oku's second, and, you know, gave Ospreay Ospreay gave her, he kicked her one time and he gave her the hidden blade when he was trying to give it to Oku. Oku ducked out of the way and Amira got it. And then the final scene of the match was Oku, you know, maybe having a pinfall. Ospreay kicks out. Then he puts him in the single leg crab. And this is how it finished. And then he put him in the single leg crab. And, you know, Will Ospreay's getting to the ropes. And then Amira, you know, walks up to him and just gives him the middle finger, and then Oku pulls him back in the middle of the ring and taps him out. Just a kind of a nice final, like, you fucked with me, you fucked with Oku, you fucked with all these people, now we got you, you're stuck in the middle of the ring, you got to tap out. And just a great finality to this entire feud, and for Will Ospreay's, you know, for now, his RevPro career. And then, yeah, really emotional promo afterwards, talking about, you know, you guys have stuck with me, and I've stuck with you, and it's just, you know, thank you for changing my life, Tony Khan, and that sort of stuff right there. So, good moment, and yeah, the match itself, I can't say enough about it. I went full 5 on it. I know that Dave Meltzer's been raving about it, so I assume he's going to put a very high rating on it as well. But yeah, I was an easy 5. That's my first 5 of the year so far, because yeah, it just hit me on a level that, like, again, I've been following this story forever, and I've been following this promotion and following these guys, so it just hit me on a level that it might not hit everybody else. But I thought the work was phenomenal as well. So. All right, let's talk about some of the other. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, I was just going to do the same thing. So the 6-way to open the show, everyone had kind of worked out that the mystery man would be Shigehiro Iri. And they had a surprise on top of that, because then after he came out, as everyone expected, Orange Cassidy's music hit, made it a 7-way, and made it for the AEW International title. So that blew the roof off the place, and he ended up winning the match. He pinned Richard Holiday, who was in from America. And I guess someone who they might be using a little more moving forward.
He looks good. Yeah, I think he's a great fit. When he came out, I was like, yeah, this guy would be a perfect fit for RevPro. So hopefully he comes out more.
Yeah. So Cameron Kai was in the match. He's one of their, you know, young, incredible, stupid young talents that they have that they're developing.
Yeah, how dumb young is this guy? Is he like 17 or something like that? They're always so
sure
young, and I'm annoyed.
Like the rest of them. I mean,
he's so annoying how young they are.
Really great, but yeah, he's got so much potential. But you know, Cassidy wins it. Spike Trevette was in there, and Flash Morgan Webster, and Shaw Samuels. I think that's everybody. So that was a crowd pleaser. Then was the women's title match, Danny Luna and Sapphire Reed. I didn't think anything of this. I thought it was just a match. I didn't think it was bad.
I thought it was okay, but yeah, I think it was okay. I usually like Luna a little bit more. But I don't know. It was fine. It's not. I don't really want to bury it. I don't think it was Barry worthy.
No, it's not Barry.
But it wasn't good. It was just fine. It was just fine.
It was a match that was there.
I do want to note one thing I did love about. So our boy Gideon Gray was on commentary, and he's very loud throughout the night. And I do understand that he's maybe a little too loud the entire night. He doesn't need to scream all the time. But he pops me all the time. Orange Cassidy comes out, the crowd's going nuts, and he's like, "Can you believe it, Gideon? Can you believe it?" He goes, "Who is this guy?" I just love that Gideon Gray exists, lives in a world where he just he has his own universe where he's like, he looks homeless. Why is he wearing pajamas? He's just laughing. I just loved it. It was so good. Lord Gideon Gray, not understanding Orange, who he is, what he's doing, why he like, you know, it's great.
He's just fully entrenched in the gimmick. He just
right.
You know, this guy's not a RevPro guy. I don't know who he is.
Right.
You know, so so it looks like Oscar Lube and Yuto Nakashima will be sent here for their excursion as young blood. And they won a match here against a couple of young wrestlers, Kieran Lacey and Mark True.
I like these guys. I was actually kind of impressed by these dudes.
Who, young blood or the young Brits?
No, the young Brits. I know young Brits. I like those guys. I think.
What do you think of them doing this gimmick as young blood?
I like it. I think it's pretty good. They have a good little chemistry going. I'm into it.
Yeah. And they're ready. They're kind of ready to go on an excursion, and Lube. Nakashima, I have to say, I don't know. He looks a little more indie than I thought he would out of the Young Lion, with his own look.
Yeah, he's still a little rough too. He's not all the way there. He's got like a big. I like his like overall like look, like his girth or whatever I should say, but
it's very early. Very early.
And he's still, I think he's 26, and I think Lube is 26 or 25 as well. So they're still relatively young. It also doesn't
help that Lube is like very tall.
Yeah.
Lube is like 6'7" or something, and like a shoot 6'7". So Nakashima is going to look like a little nugget next to him.
Yes, and he does.
Because
he absolutely does look like a nugget. Yeah.
So that, so I don't even know if he's 6 foot. So but yeah, it's hopefully. Because I think when guys come here, whether it's Great Okan, who was awesome here, or whether it's Shota Umino, who was, up and down, this is a good place to park their guys. Again, I just think that, AEW, RevPro, CMLL, New Japan, I legitimately you can't pick 4 better promotions to be working with.
No. That's.
It's, they are my 4 favorite promotions in the world. I think I could, let me think about this. Would anyone else, am I forgetting anybody? I don't think so.
All Japan, maybe, if you want to throw All Japan in there.
Yeah, maybe.
MLW, of course.
Of course. Now, if you're talking about the back half of 2023, it definitely would have been All Japan and not AEW in that top 4. But when AEW has their shit together, But anyway, yeah, it's just great that those 4 promotions are the ones that work together. So Luke Jacobs and JJ Gale. Now I thought this ended up being a great match. I thought they were messy to start. I didn't like a lot of the early work, so I'm probably the low man on this match. And I'm not just talking about Gale slipping on the guardrail. That's the obvious.
Yeah, I don't get that stuff. Doesn't bother me all that much. I just thought that I felt like they were not on the same page for the first 5 to 8 minutes of this. And I thought Jacobs was uncharacteristically not very crisp. I thought he had very, there were little things where I was like, wow, there's something wrong with him today, because he was doing that little choppy rope running that you see like NXT rookies do. And he just didn't seem confident and sure of himself in there. And their timing with each other was a little bit off. But then once the match got rolling and they got into it and they got into their, the back half of the match, it was great. So it was like a tale of 2 matches for me. I will say these 2 men had 2 of the worst haircuts you will ever see in your life, though. So when they both got in the ring, I was like, oh my God, these haircuts are so ridiculous. It's like the no sideburns hair. They both had Luke Jacobs has that. And then Gale has the exact same hair as Luke Jacobs. And I was like, oh dear God. But I actually had the exact same thought that you did. And I was kind of surprised because I watched the show kind of out of order. Like I forgot this show was even on and I was home on the day. So I was like, oh shit, I'm going to turn this thing on. So I turned it on and I saw Ogogo, Ricky Knight, and everything else live, and then I went back and watched the other stuff, and people were raving about Jacobs and Gale, and I was like, oh man, here we go. And yeah, the first 10 minutes or so, I'm like, I know what they're going for, but it's just not landing with me. Maybe it's because my expectations are too high. Maybe it's just because I went in, with people saying this is a great match, and I was like, I don't know, I'm not noticing. It just seemed like a boilerplate, like, yeah, we're gonna chop each other and slug one another type of match or whatever. But yeah, man, those last 5 minutes, they fucking were blitzing each other with strikes and chops and dropping each other on their heads. Just real good dumb jock wrestling bullshit at those last 5 minutes or whatever. So they got it together. But yeah, I'm with you. I can't call it like a great match because I did not love the first couple of minutes, maybe the first 10 or so minutes, but everything else after that was really, really good. So yeah, if you want to call it a tale of 2 matches, that's probably the best way to put it.
So Mustafa Ali versus Robbie X. This is the first time I've seen Ali in an indie match. He wasn't doing does he do his Twitter gimmick?
Not really.
In his American indie matches?
Once he
like
gets
candidate shit.
No, once he gets into the ring and once he comes out, he's basically just Mustafa Ali. You know what I mean?
Like
it's
he was
not
on this show.
right. Exactly. Yeah. For when I saw, because I saw him at the Catch show, the one APC Catch or whatever in France, and then I saw him live at Dreamwave. And yeah, what he did at Dreamwave was exactly what he did here.
So he's not doing the political campaign.
No, he
stuff.
puts his hand. He puts his hand on his heart sometimes when he gets to the top rope, but that's it. That's the extent of it.
Okay. Anyway, I thought he looked really good here, and Robbie X is just that guy who you never like. The book doesn't match the cover because we always praise how good he is in the ring, and he doesn't look like a guy who's going to be that good in the ring, but he's very good. I mean, and Mustafa Ali put him over big in the post match, saying how when he found out I was going to be working with this guy, Andy told me I'd be working with the king of the cruiserweights here, and I knew it was going to be a great match. And he put him over and shook his hand and raised his arm up and everything.
Yeah, that was a cool little thing. I mean, he grabbed the mic immediately and said, "Hey, this isn't character, this isn't shtick, this isn't any part of it, but like, I just want to say that Robbie X is one of the best goddamn wrestlers in the world right now." And
Yeah, they went out there and kicked ass. I mean, this was a really awesome, mid-card match on this show where they didn't like steal the show or anything, but it was a performance that you would expect out of each of them. And I was watching Ali closely because, again, I haven't seen him yet. I've heard reports, but I haven't seen him with my own eyes on the indies. And as far as him moving forward, I think he's doing the right thing. I think he's getting an exorbitant amount of money to do these shots and coming off WWE TV, and he should do that. He should not sign anywhere until the well runs dry in that regard. If he can go out there and get $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a shot for some of these shows,
that's good money, man. Travel the world, have a little fun, travel the world.
Because he could sign somewhere at any time. What's the rush? So like you said, travel the world. You want to take a weekend off and hang out with your kid and your wife, before you settle down and sign and get back to the grind. So I think he's doing the right thing in the position he's in. And he's going to be sought after because he's really great. Shingo versus Trent Seven. So you didn't like this, so I guess I'll go first. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, look, Shingo has had much better matches against other people. This was hardly an example of the best of Shingo, okay? But, and there were points in this match where it was obvious that Trent, how can I phrase this? I don't think it was an issue of keeping up, but there were some spots that may not have been the smoothest. I thought that apron Death Valley driver or whatever it was looked like Trent Seven died.
Yeah. Yes, it did. Yeah.
But, I saw people really banging on this match, but for whatever reason, people hate this fucking guy. And
they
I don't
really dislike Trent Seven. Yeah.
I don't hate him. I don't have anything against him.
He did play a part in selling the whole scene down a river. But
he did. I get it. Look, I get it. I'm just saying I don't hate him.
It's at a point now. Well, it's also at a point now where he's just like, he's eating his shit and now he's back here. It's like, it's all right. You know what I mean? Like, you can forgive.
Well, he was the hang your head in shame guy.
Yeah. Right.
You make a quote like that, it's going to be hard to live down.
Right.
I mean, hang your head in shame. He was the hang your head in shame guy, and Pete Dunne was the not the way guy.
Not the way. Yeah. Pete Dunne was not the way.
He was the not the way guy. Such great. Those are such great British quotes, though. Like,
that's hang your head in shame. Yeah.
Yeah, no American guy would be like, not the way. That's just such a British thing to say. Right. Not the way. So it's like, but yeah, again, I get why people don't like him and think he's a douchebag. It wasn't my scene that he fucking helped tear down. You know what I mean? Like, I get it. But you also know me. I am very good at compartmentalizing that kind of stuff anyway. I'm looking at the Raw performance. That's all. I mean, most of the time I'm able, the vast majority of the time, 99.9% of the time, I'm able to do that. And I like him as a wrestler. He doesn't always land with me. He's kind of an acquired taste too, in a lot of ways. But
sometimes I fucking love his matches, and sometimes I hate him, and there's like no in between.
Yes, for sure. And you would, and then, now look, I'll be fair. Do you expect a better match when Shingo Takagi is in it?
Yes,
you absolutely do. Do I think this match was terrible? I don't. I thought it was like a 3-star, 3.25 star match. I don't know.
I think that's fair. I
You
think
hate
that's fair.
it.
No,
Yeah,
I
you hated it, right?
hate it. Hold on. Start. Hold on.
I thought you said it's the worst match in the show.
Well, it's the worst match on the show, but I like this show a lot. I thought the show was really good.
Okay.
That's kind of where I'm at. I did not hate it. I just thought
Like 2.5 or something.
maybe like 3. I'm probably about a 3 on it. But I think I like the women's match a little bit more than you do. I'm about 3. These are about even on my scale, basically. I thought the women's match was...
I didn't think any of the matches were bad.
No.
I didn't think there was one bad match on the show.
No.
I really didn't.
I really love the next match.
That's interesting because I thought I was going to have the hot take. A Go-Go versus Ricky Knight Jr., which Cage Match hated.
Oh, fuck that.
They've got
They're
it
wrong.
at like 4.8 or whatever.
They're all wrong.
Now, look, I think at this point, it's fair to say, I don't think a Go-Go is ever going to be great at this. What a Go-Go can be, though, is he can understand who he is and work to that. And I think if he understands that, there's a place for him in Major League Pro Wrestling. And typically I don't like the punch in the face as a finish because I think it's silly because why wait until 20 minutes into a match to do it? Just do it in the first minute. But because he's a boxer and that's his background, if he can be smart and work his matches around trying to get that knockout blow, I can get into his matches, but he's going to have to be really good at it because he has a lot of deficiencies as a worker. But I don't know. I enjoyed this match. It was a little rough around the edges for sure.
I think it's going to be, though.
I don't mind that.
I think he's going to be.
Point. Yeah.
I think we're at this point now where he's not going to be a polished professional wrestler. And I don't want him to be a polished professional wrestler. I like the idea that he's this boxer that's in this wrestling world. And that's how this match was wrestled. It was Ricky Knight Jr., the wrestler, against Anthony Ogogo, the former boxer who can't box anymore because of his partial blindness in his one eye or whatever. And they told the story of that as well, that there was times where when Ogogo was just brawling with the guy, he had the advantage. And then there was times where he started to try to wrestle with Ricky Knight Jr. And every time he did, Ricky Knight Jr. caught him off every single time. And they even mentioned it on commentary. And Gideon Graves, like, you know, Ogogo shouldn't be worrying about trying to out wrestle Ricky Knight Jr. He's got advantages elsewhere. And then eventually Ogogo just realizes, wait, I'm just going to punch you. And then he just punches him and beats him. And it's like, I think there's potential there. It's going to be, you're going to have to be everyone's going to have to know the score going into these matches. You cannot have a match where any guy is going to have their normal wrestling match with Anthony Ogogo. You can't do that. Everybody's going to have to work it a little bit different, but I do think there's potential there. I do think there's something to it.
I agree. I think we have very similar thoughts and we express them different ways because I think if he works a certain way and he's smart about it, that he could be an effective pro wrestler. But I mean, you know, he's like you say, he's never going to be polished.
No, he's 35. I mean, the guy's 35 years old. He's not going to learn how to become a good pro wrestler anytime soon. That's done.
Blind in one eye.
Right. That ship is sailed.
I mean,
the best you can do is, like we said with Jade earlier, accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. What are you good at? Yeah. What are you bad at? Let's figure it out. He's a good shit talker. He's got, great promo ability. That sort of stuff he can do. He can box. He can look like a badass because he looks like a badass. It's just he's never going to be able to go in the ring. So you're just going to have to tailor matches in a specific way. But I think he's worth kicking the tires on, at least for a little bit. Maybe in a year's time, you did all the matches and you say, hey, there's not much more I can do with this guy. We're kind of there. We're at the point where there's not much more we can really do. But I do think there's some potential there. I do.
Listen, I don't play Game Boy, mate. That's just a classic line. This is fucking great. Zack Sabre Jr. and Connor Mills. I mean, this fucking rocked.
Oh, this match is so good. This is
Zack has been so good
so
lately.
close to as good as the main event too, which I don't use that lightly. I mean that in the best terms. I like this match almost as much as I liked Oku and Ospreay.
Connor Mills, last year, along with Luke Jacobs, I thought they may have been the two most improved wrestlers in the world. I always called Connor Mills the British, who's my boy from
Jordan Oliver.
I always called him the British Jordan Oliver.
And for a while he was, with the weird hair and the dreadlocks and the terrible gear.
The awkward movements.
Yeah.
And to be fair, both of them have drastically improved.
Yes, they have.
I can't mock
Thanks to
one
you.
of them.
You challenged both of them and they both improved. So thank you, Joe.
I don't look. And I think with Jordan Oliver, a lot of it is, believe me, I'm not sitting there on Fight watching Game Changer every weekend. So because I only see him few and far between, his improvements are like very noticeable when I watch Jordan Oliver. And he has really worked hard to improve. And the same for Connor Mills. I mean, this was a guy 2-3 years ago where it's like, oh God, this is an indie wrestler, all right. But now this is a guy who, by virtue of being in there with people like this, and working all of these shows and with top caliber, he's improved drastically. And those Observer Awards drop in a couple hours. I don't expect them to win or even come close. I'm curious to see if both Luke Jacobs and Connor Mills got some down ballot support for most improved wrestler.
Yeah, maybe a little, but
Jacobs maybe. I doubt Mills did.
No,
but
I don't. I doubt either.
And I didn't vote.
Honest.
Did you vote this year?
I didn't. I'm done voting on the Observer Awards. I'm kind of over it.
I haven't voted in a while.
I don't think I can't think about 2023 2 months into 2024. There's too many other things going on. We're doing our match of the year. We're trying to move forward on this thing. I stopped voting as well. It's just not worth. I don't know.
But Zach, you can't say enough. I mean, he's on fire too, and what a great match. I mean, to me it was the second best match in the show, on a show that was really good. I mean, and Zach gets the win, and he'll be an important player moving forward too. He's going to be the biggest star in the promotion, really, for whenever he pops in. But and then it was the main event, which we talked about. So I know we have a couple more topics to get to, and you have a hard out. So yeah, I mean, it was a really good show with an incredible main event has a legitimate chance to be the match of the year. Yeah. And I think on February 22nd, we can safely say that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's going to be the mix. It's
going to be top 10 without question.
I think so. Yeah. I think
probably top 5. I'd be surprised if that. And that's without even knowing what's coming. But I can't imagine there's going to be 10 better matches than that. We always have a pretty good feel for how.
Yeah, I usually do. Well, anytime I watch a match and we say it, we're usually on. We're usually pretty good about if it's going to be in the top 10, and I'm pretty confident this thing's going to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
At the end of the year, but we'll see what ends up happening there. But yeah, great show. RevProOnDemand.com if you want to watch High Stakes 2024, but it's all available there. I'd say hit play, watch the whole fucking thing. I know that if you're pressed for time, you can watch Sabre and Mills and Oku and Ospreay, but honestly, sit down and watch the whole fucking show because I think it's a scene. It's a good scene right now, and you should watch.
Yeah, you're gonna fire it up, and the file is gonna say 5 hours, but it's not. First of all, there's 45 minutes of dead space at the end of the file. That's number one.
Right, which it's so great. So what happens is, and it happened on the live show too. What happens is the show ends, and everybody leaves the booth. But nobody turns the camera off. And this apparently happens at every RevPro show now.
Every RevPro show. I watch all the shows.
So everybody, you hear you hear Andy Quilden put his headset down, getting ready to put his headset down. You start seeing people pick up chairs. Everyone leaves the arena and the camera's still on. And you're like, turn the camera off. Why am I watching this? But I was watching. I was like, well, something might happen. I don't know. It's like, Rich, nothing's happening.
But even when they turn the camera off, what you get is that screen with the red X that says no feed from venue, and you get that for a half hour.
Yeah,
they leave it on there. They fucking leave it on. Because here's the thing. Big RevPro show, they did 4 or 5 a year, and what do we hear from everyone who parachutes in? Oh, this production. I'm so numb to it.
It doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't bother me anymore.
It just is what it is. It fucking sucks.
It's RevPro. It is what it is. You just have to expect it.
The commentary all sounds like this for it just is what it is. Right. I don't even know what the fuck they're saying. Like, Andy's talking, and then Gideon Gray's talking, but I don't know what the fuck either one of them are saying.
Right. But it's also loud.
I don't fucking know.
It's muffled, but also loud somehow. I don't know how they do it. Make it muffled and loud at the same time is incredible, but they do it.
And Andy Quilden, love him as a promoter. I assume he has a hand in the booking. Love him as a booker. He's a terrible commentator. All he does is scream and yell. And then the production makes it sound even worse. And the sound is always terrible. The video is always like fucking Gabe, how's the stream in 2009?
It's a little grainy. It's a little potatoy. It's got some potato look to it. It's like,
that's the RevPro experience.
Yeah, but I don't fucking care because the wrestling's great.
I don't care anymore. Yeah, I know what I'm going to get. So yeah, the file isn't really 5 hours. You got 45 minutes of dead air. You can skip entrances, skip the Ospreay speech, you know, and at that point, it's a normal fucking 3-hour super show of a promotion. It's sit down on a lazy look. NFL's over.
Yeah, what else you got?
Fucking All-Star.
What the hell is you gonna do?
NBA All-Star break is over now. Are they back?
They played
NBA's
today.
back,
They started today.
It's fucking February NBA. Baseball hasn't started yet. This is the time. Just sit down on a lazy fucking Saturday. It's a good show. You'll enjoy yourself.
So let's talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've talked a lot about them over the last couple of weeks. I think last week was the show where we did like 2 hours about New Japan. Obviously, New Beginning Sapporo coming up this weekend, night 1 on the 23rd. Actually, wow, by the time most of you guys listen to this, that show will have already happened, and night 2 on the 24th. The big matches you need to know about on night 1, Yuji Nagata and Zack Sabre Jr. in a singles match. I like that one. You have David Finlay versus Nick Nemeth for the global heavyweight title. That presumably is going to be your main event. So Nick Nemeth getting a main event spot here in Sapporo to start out his New Japan Pro Wrestling career. New Japan World TV title, Hiroshi Tanahashi defending against Matt Riddle. Evil versus Shota Umino for the Never Openweight title. El Desperado versus Sho for the junior title. And Mayu Iwatani versus Mina Shirakawa for the IWGP Women's title. So that's the big show, big matches.
Is this Shirakawa any good?
Yeah, she's okay. Some people love her. I don't think she's very good.
Okay, they're gonna get 11 minutes. Can that be a good match in 11 minutes?
Yeah, I think it could be good in 11 minutes.
Okay. So my takeaways here, and we don't need to go over the tags, although these are Okada's final 2 matches.
Right, and Tama Tonga's final matches, so we should talk about those.
Right. But my takeaway on the business end of the card would be, I get the sense that Nick Nemeth is just dropping by, so he'll probably lose, and that'll be it for him. We're going to find out real quick if Matt Riddle is going to be in this promotion moving forward, because he has said, I don't know if you saw this, but he did some kind of media interview. It wasn't the Chris Van Vliet thing. It was something else. He said he has more dates with New Japan coming up this year. So he could beat Tanahashi. I think he can win that match.
You think he could pin Okada on night 2 and beat Tanahashi on night 1?
Yes.
That's not impossible. I agree.
I mean, I think he could win that title on night 1, and I think he can become the leader of United Empire on night 2, which a lot of people, the obvious speculation is that he could replace Ospreay in that unit.
Yeah.
Or they can blow the unit up and do whatever the case is, though, because Jeff Cobb's right there. They've been a tag team, right? The Chosen Bros, isn't that Cobb and Riddle? And then
was that their name? I think it was. I think you're right.
And Cobb and Riddle were going to be in a World Tag League before WWE came in and signed Riddle. So
Chosen Bros, you're right.
So it's Riddle doing something with Cobb, whether it's this unit or the unit breaks up or whatever the fuck, right, is on the table. And Tanahashi is opposite him in the tag as well. I think he could win that title. And then I think they could do an angle on night 2 coming off of that 10-man tag. Because we now know that Riddle has more dates. Nemeth, I think this is going to be it because he signed to Impact. Now, that doesn't mean they can't use Nemeth in the U.S. like they're doing in Chicago because he's on the Chicago show.
Right.
But do I think Nick Nemeth is going to be going over for New Japan tours? I don't get that sense at all.
No, and I don't think he's winning this title either. I'd be stunned if he won this title.
No, this is them putting... Look, Finley's getting the fucking rocket pack.
Mm-hmm.
No one likes it, but he is. And he's going to beat Nemeth. And he sent Will Ospreay packing out of the territory, and it is what it is. And we see if it catches on. I don't think it will.
I'm going to guess it will not, but
they're going to try.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that Matt Riddle is going to be a fixture on this roster moving forward based on, just reading the tea leaves of this booking on these 2 shows.
And then, so obviously you have the Okada match on night 1. We've mentioned that last week. He's teaming with the Chaos Guys, basically, against United Empire. Night 2 matches you need to know about here. Naito and Sonata in your main event for the IWGP World Heavyweight title. What is your % chance that Sonata wins the title back?
Real quick before that, Yuji Nagata versus Zack Sabre Jr.
I'm in. I love it.
I mean, with the year Sabre's having, look, that is a chance to be a kick-ass undercard match.
Fuck yeah, it does. And the guy Yuji's been great. I still love Yuji Nagata. with the right opponent, he could still go in a very big way.
Yeah, and and then there's a couple other tags, but yeah, and then night 2. Go ahead and
so you got Naito versus Sonata for the World Heavyweight title. I'm asking you % chance that Sonata defeats Naito to retain or to win back this title.
I have no feel for this. I can't say 0.
It's not 0. It can't be 0.
It's not 0. Some of these matches you're like, okay, it's 0. This one's not. I don't know. I think with the current state of the company, unfortunately, Sonata is the top guy. And it wouldn't stun me if they go back to him. I mean, it wouldn't even stun me. You're going to puke in your mouth. But would it surprise you at all if Naito, this will be their second match, right, this year?
Yeah.
Wrestle Kingdom. Would it surprise you if they have 2 more? And this is a series of matches all year? It wouldn't.
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't want it, but it wouldn't surprise me. No,
do not fucking want. But I could see Sonata winning.
They're not exactly brimming with tippy top stars, and these are 2 of the tippy top guys. So
yeah, and then Naito wins like fucking New Japan Cup or whatever,
because 2 of their other guys are leaving. 2 of the other guys are gone. So yeah, you're kind of
then they face each other in a G1 final or at fucking King of Pro Wrestling. I could see this being one of Gato's things where there's like 4 of the same match in 1 year. Because what else does he have to turn to right now?
Yeah, that's exactly my point. Who else? Who's the next man up?
And if Naito wins, he's beaten him twice in a row, and then it's really hard to get to another match. So I don't know. I can't put it at 0. I'd put it at like 40%.
That's kind of where I was going to go. Yeah, I was going to go 40%. I still would probably put the favorite on Naito retaining, but I don't think it's impossible for the exact reason that you mentioned there. It's like, what else do you do? If Naito just beats this guy, you kick Sonata down the road, all right, hit the bricks, pal. Okay. Who's next? Who's been built up to be next?
Are they ever going to do this Naito Hiromu anniversary show, champ versus champ match?
They better. Here we go. Great time to do it. I think it's coming up soon. So let's. But Hiromu's not the champion. So I don't know.
That's what I mean. When are they going to fucking do it? And Hiromu's not even on the horizon. I mean,
right?
The Despi's current feud is show, and like, what are we waiting for? I think everyone would like to see that. But it never lines up. And I thought for sure this was the year we'd get it. But here we are. I don't know. I just, Naito Sonata being the through line of 2024 is not something that gets my juices flowing.
No.
I mean,
no.
And that's why I think, Riddle is going to be a guy, because they need guys.
They need guys in the worst way. Because they have people. They don't have guys. They have a lot of people on the roster, not a lot of guys. Hair versus hair match. Yota Tsuji versus Yuya Uemura. Who's losing their hair, Joe? I hope it's not Yota Tsuji.
Let's, look, matches like this is what they need. And let's definitively put people over in feuds and get some of these guys over. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's cut some fucking hair. I don't know. I don't know who's getting the haircut, but look, I suspect Uemura is losing.
I would expect that too.
But
what am I basing that on? That's some good heat. If Yota Tsuji loses that hair, that's good heat.
It is.
Memphis Gato, he likes heat. My man likes heat, and he likes hair versus hair matches. He's been watching his Memphis tapes, clearly.
Yeah, I think that but what gives me pause is Tsuji won the gauntlet in Korakuen.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Uemura wins the hair here.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible. I think that's good heat. Like I'm saying, that's really. I think about how angry people would be cutting that Yota Tsuji hair. That'd be. I think that's got some possibility. But yeah, either way, like you said, I'm glad they're in the semi-main event. It's a definitive match. It's time to go. Let's go. Yeah. You need guys. Let's kick this into high gear here. Taichi versus Shingo Takagi, Hiromu Takahashi versus Dookie, and Taka Michinoku versus Bushi. I'm not really excited about any of those, but
but I'd rather have singles matches than endless tags.
Sure.
And you never know what comes out of them. There could be angles coming out of these. So. And then Nick Nemeth gets the gift of teaming with Taguchi.
Against the War Dogs. Yeah, Finlay and Gato. And then Guerrillas of Destiny. Final match for Tama Tonga and New Japan Pro Wrestling versus the Guerrillas of Destiny. Guerrillas of Destiny versus Guerrillas of Destiny. And now, thankfully, we'll never, ever, ever, ever see this match ever again. So.
Yeah, Tama Tonga had a nice New Japan career. I remember him as a young boy. I remember him doing the Jimmy Snuka routine with the no boots and the cheetah print or whatever animal that was, print fucking tights, and then original Bullet Club member, and with Fale and Prince Devitt, and then a lot of years of the same old shit.
Dude. I'll miss that fucking song playing.
Great theme. Great
it's a great theme, but I'll miss that booming through the Tokyo Dome at 2 a.m. as I'm sitting there, hugging a cup of coffee and a bowl of cereal, slinking down to the ring. Like, oh my god,
that's a terrible rendition.
It's not good,
but we get the idea.
You got the idea.
Yeah. I mean, I'll remember the promos with the Briscoes during that feud that were really good. I'm trying to accentuate the positives.
Yeah.
And he's a better wrestler than people think.
No, he's good. Yeah, he's just been caught doing the same shit forever. When he did the babyface run, I thought that was great. When they finally, after what 9 years or whatever, 8-9 years of him being what he was, the babyface run was pretty good. But then it kind of, what I mean? Like after a little bit, you were like, you know what? We're kind of back to just the same thing with him. But no, I think there's stuff. He's got more potential. He's got more that he can offer the wrestling world. So. And then obviously the final Okada match, and that's about it. A few other tag matches on that show, but that's New Japan's weekend. So we will preview or review all that stuff next week's show. Before we get out of here, I think we got it all. Two more things here real quick. So TNA No Surrender pay-per-view this Friday. Yes, TNA has a pay-per-view this Friday. Moose versus Alex Shelley, a TNA World Title No Surrender rules match. Moose defending the title against Alex Shelley. Jordan Grace defending against Giselle Shaw, the TNA Knockouts World Title. TNA X Division title, Chris Sabin defending against Mustafa Ali. TNA World Tag Team title, Best of 3 Series match number 3. Ace Austin and Chris Bay versus the Grizzled Young Veterans. TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles, Decay, Havoc and Rosemary, who are the champions, versus MK Ultra, Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich. Simon Gotch versus Josh Alexander, and PCO versus Khan. Yes, the former Connor from whatever the fuck the team was. What was the team? I don't even remember what their fucking team was anymore.
The Ascension.
The Ascension, that's it. Yes. If you're wondering, hey, whatever happened to Khan? Well, he's here in TNA as Khan.
Right.
So that's TNA No Surrender. I don't know. It's TNA, man. I don't know.
I'll procrastinate until fucking Thursday afternoon to get that done.
Yeah.
And be ready for the show next week. One thing I'm baffled by, I know we don't have a lot of time. I'll make it quick. One thing I am baffled by is this idea that Tony Khan needs to bring in Scott D'Amore. What has Scott D'Amore? I mean, what is it about TNA that has impressed people at all in terms of their creative direction or their shows or their booking, to where people think Scott D'Amore would have anything productive to add to what AEW does? I am baffled by this. TNA is not some incredibly booked promotion. They have no growth, which is why he doesn't have a job, by the way. They never grow. They can't sell tickets to save their lives. Their shows are constantly riddled with multi-person matches. This one isn't, and he's gone. So maybe we could start blaming him for that. And intergender and the undead realm. I am baffled by this idea that people think he is AEW's savior. I mean,
right? People like the guy, which is good. You should be like. It's good to be liked.
There's nothing wrong with that. Look, yes, it's great that the talent likes him and would probably like to work for it. That's like a great positive. It really is. I have never looked at the Scott D'Amore era of TNA and thought to myself, man, that is a bright wrestling mind that has his shit together. Never. I am never excited by their booking. It is very functional, boring booking, and anything they do that's creative, I never like. I don't like anything they do that. I hated Josh Alexander winning the title, then losing it 2 minutes later to fucking Moose. I can go right down the line. Some of the shit that I brought up earlier, the Undead Realm nonsense, and all the intergender that D'Amore fell in love with, and sticking 1,000 people in all the pay-per-view matches for no reason whatsoever. I don't think he has anything to offer AEW from a creative standpoint. I am baffled by that. And he obviously, look, I have nothing against Scott D'Amore. This company has not grown. Guys, that's why he doesn't have a job anymore. They don't grow. Their TV ratings don't grow. Their pay-per-view doesn't grow. They can't sell tickets. The biggest gig they've done in a decade was off of 1,500 fans. I mean, this is why he doesn't work there anymore. Why would anyone be fucking clamoring to hire this guy? And again, I have nothing against him, but can we pump the brakes on Scott D'Amore creative genius? Can we please calm down? Please, based on what?
Or point to what in the last 2 years. Let's go with the last. Go with the last 2 years with TNA and Impact. What has he done in the last 2 years that's made you say this specific story, this specific guy, this specific elevation, this is the stuff that AEW needs right now in this company?
That caught on and did business.
Right.
I mean, okay, Hard to Kill did a shockingly good pay-per-view number. We all know it's because of the novelty of going back to the TNA name, which is fine. You do what you do to draw. But we're going to find out real soon with No Surrender and everything else coming up that was the, and we all suspect that was the case. We know it wasn't because it was some well-booked show. They didn't even have TV the 3 weeks leading up to it.
Right, that's how you know it was just the novelty of the new name, because they didn't have
the novelty of the name
TV.
And the curiosity of, yes, because they didn't even have go-home shows. They didn't have TV for 3 weeks. It was the novelty and the curiosity of going back to the TNA name, which is fine. But they haven't grown at all. They do, there's some weeks where there's not a huge difference in viewership between TNA and New Japan New Japan airs 2 hours later at 10 o'clock at night. So, they never grow the TV. I don't know. And it puts me in a position to bury a guy that I have nothing against. But this overwhelming, first of all, that he was wronged. Well, where's the growth? If the company was making money and had any growth, they wouldn't have got rid of him. Okay, that's number one. And number two, where's this body of work that supports the fact that he should be anywhere near the room in AEW? With Tony Khan, someone who has proven that he can be successful at a major league level in pro wrestling. Granted, all of the differences in resources and everything else that you have to take into. But look, we don't have time for a full-on segment here, but what has Scott D'Amore ever done to earn that kind of position?
He's also a guy who's had a lot of years at the helm too. It's not just been the last couple of years in TNA. I mean, there was years and years where he was part of the team as well, or the head of the team or whatever. And so honestly, I'd rather have new voices in the room than this guy. And nothing against Scott D'Amore either. We're just going to add him
to an already clustered room that AEW has.
Right.
They have too many voices as it is. Now we're going to add Scott D'Amore in the mix so he can stand up and go, I think we should do some intergender. No, thanks. I'll pass on Scott D'Amore. Now, you want to bring him in as some kind of, talent relations guy, because he seems to be very popular among talent. I could see that. I could totally see that. But does he want to do that? Feels like kind of a demotion. I don't know. But anyway, that's just something that's been bugging me all week. Josh Alexander, they exercised his option. I feel like that's a bigger story than people think, not because there's rumblings that Alexander was hoping that they wouldn't exercise his option. And I don't know whether that's true or not.
Well, I will say one thing that was interesting about the whole rollout of this was, so TNA released they did a tweet about Josh Alexander re-signing with TNA. That tweet got deleted, and a new one got sent out with saying TNA has exercised Josh Alexander's option.
So what's your conspiracy theory? That he didn't like the verbiage?
I think that he didn't like the verbiage, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of saying, look, guys, I didn't re-sign with you guys. You extended my option.
All right, that's fine. And even if that's the case, look, you signed a contract that had a company option. It is what it is, you know. But the point I want to make is, I think that's the less interesting part, even though that's what everybody's focusing on. To me, the more interesting part there is we're all waiting to see if they're going to lean this company out. This was a great opportunity to see if they're going to just start letting talent whose contracts come up walk to save some money.
Especially a big contract like, I'm assuming Josh Alexander's got to be...
I would assume he's one of the bigger ones.
He's got to be one of the top 3, if not the top. You know, I don't know, maybe Shelley or something like that is a little higher. Maybe Moose is a little higher, but he's got to be up there. He's in
top 25%.
Oh, God, no. It's top 5% easily.
At minimum.
Yeah.
So it's like, this was, all right, someone's contract is up. We hold the option. They didn't let him walk. They exercised the option and picked it up, which tells me that's something to keep an eye on. You know, now that doesn't necessarily mean, you know, they might just value him, right? The next 5 contracts that come up, they might let these people walk. So, but to me, that's the more interesting aspect of the story. The first chance, post the more, with bean counters in charge now, they picked up someone's option. They didn't let them walk. So that to me is something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think that's an interesting thing that this was the first opportunity for the new regime to just say, hey, great, your option's up. We can save X whatever dollars, have fun, leave, go. We don't, you know, the fact that they picked him up is interesting. It's definitely interesting. It means that maybe this operation isn't going to get as lean as we thought. Now, who knows, you know, in other ways, they might see him as so valuable that he's worth retaining. And then there might be several other people that come up and they say, actually, this person's not worth it. But for right now, maybe we think Josh Alexander is one of the few guys that we are willing to, you know, invest in for the next year or whatever that may be. So
yeah, they still might have designs on cutting budget, but feel that he is someone worth retaining.
Right. He's one of the few guys on this roster maybe that they think, okay, this guy is actually worth the money and worth paying to keep this thing alive. Right. And then there was the hourglass emojis that several TNA wrestlers tweeting out hourglass emojis. Were they just fucking around? Were they hinting about something bigger happening? What's going on here? What was your read on the hourglass emojis that were all the rage for TNA wrestlers this week?
So Sean Ross Sapp said someone's contract was coming due because he likes to tease his stories before he publishes them because he thinks that drums up business. And then when he posted that tweet, people started speculating on who it might be. And then the TNA wrestlers picked up on that. And Josh Alexander was the first one to post the hourglass, and then some other people followed suit. It ended up being Steve Macklin, whose contract is coming up. I think my read on it was the wrestlers were just fucking around with the fans. And Alexander posted his hourglass because his name seemed to be the prominent one that people were speculating on. And then I think Jordan Grace did it, and then everybody on the roster just did it, and I think they were just goofing around.
Yeah, once Tommy Dreamer did it, you were like, oh, I don't know what's going on here anymore. You know,
I think it was just a goof. Chris Bay and everybody. I mean, I don't think there's anything to read into with it. I think they were just all, as our British friends would say, taking the piss and just
they got some pub out of it though. People were talking about TNA.
A little buzz. Yeah, it definitely got a little buzz.
And Macklin's contract isn't up until like May. So for people wondering, like, oh man, Macklin's the next to go, it's not until May. So it's like, it's all weird.
Macklin clearly wants everyone to know when his contract is up.
Yeah.
And that's when that kind of news breaks.
Yeah, but people if you're not already used to this, get used to this. There is a very deliberate attempt to let people know, usually via reporters like Sean Ross Sapp, to let the world know that your contract is up and you are a free agent and you are able to be negotiated
on this date, on this whatever date, because you're putting feelers out there.
Every wrestler's doing it now, so get used to this.
They're all doing it.
Saw it with the War Dogs. We're seeing it with Macklin. Get used to it. This is the new
ELP.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He did that interview and wasn't even being asked about his contract and just kept bringing it up. I mean, this is what because they want to see if there's interest out there, and this is, and it's the right game to play. And we're not knocking Sean. If a wrestler came to us and said, hey guys, my contract, I'm going to post that shit on our paywall, that whoever's contract, whoever it is, and here's their contract. But that's from the wrestler perspective. That's what they're doing. They're letting everyone know because they don't have to say anything. Where else is that information coming from? The promotion's not going to put that out there. It's the wrestler wants that out there to see if there's interest.
So that's TNA. Real quickly here before we get out, WrestleUniverse. Big changes coming to WrestleUniverse. That's obviously if you watch Noah, Tokyo Joshi Pro, DDT, that's all on WrestleUniverse. They sent out an email this morning telling people about price increases coming to the streaming service. But with those price increases, you're also getting the addition of several new promotions and content. You're getting Monday Magic Season 2, all episodes live. I don't know. I don't know what Monday Magic Season 2 is, but all episodes are now going to be live on WrestleUniverse. Thank God. Exclusive live broadcast of all matches of the new brand Limit Break. So there's a new sub-brand of Noah called Limit Break. More exclusive broadcasts of Noah, Cork, and Hall events beginning in March.
All right.
So that's pretty cool. March 31st, Cork and Hall show will be exclusively broadcast in Japanese and English on WrestleUniverse. We will continue to announce more events after April, so just more stuff streaming on there. Ganbare Pro, which to announce its independence from Cyberfight, will continue to be distributed on WrestleUniverse. So do not worry. I know you were worried about Ganbare Pro, but you can still watch it. They also have extended the universe of the WrestleUniverse. They will stream the following companies' video on-demand content: Michinoku Pro, Sendai Girls Pro Wrestling, and Real 01. Now, the 01 thing is weird. I don't know if you've been following this. What's going on with this Real 01 and 01? I don't have a really good read on it, but obviously we cover 01, maybe not as much as the Emerald Flow show. They might cover 01 a little bit more. There's something weird going on with the 01 thing, because these Real 01 shows are basically these sub-brand offshoot shows of 01. And you might be asking, why the fuck does 01 need an offshoot brand? Does 01 have a roster to sustain a sub-brand or an offshoot show? And they really don't. These Real 01 shows are essentially the same. They feel like 01 shows. They have all the same talent, all the same people, most of the same guys. I don't know what's going on. Some people have speculated that maybe there's some issue with the original 01 branding and Shijiro Otani, who's obviously having his issues right now, and I'm still paralyzed and obviously never going to return to the ring. Like, maybe he doesn't want to give up the name, so they're going to come and make the sub-brand so that they can actually still run shows or whatever. I don't know what it is, but Real 01's going to be on WrestleUniverse, so we'll see when these shows start popping up what it's going to be. But hey, more accessible 01 is fine with me. Michinoku Pro Sendai Girls Wrestling will also be available on WrestleUniverse moving forward. And also, comment AI translation. Users can now translate comments posted during live broadcasts into Japanese and or English. Use AI translation to enjoy professional wrestling in real time with people worldwide. I won't be using that, but anyway.
Just with 01 needed an offshoot.
Right. And that's why it's like, it's weird. When you look at the Real 01 shows, which there are more of them than there are 01 shows now, and it's pretty much all the same wrestlers, something weird's going on there, and I don't know enough.
Kind of money washing or
something strange, or like we can't
business or something.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, or like Otani owns 01 trademarks, but we don't really want to. He won't sell it. I don't know I don't know what's going on there, but regardless, Real 01 will be on WrestleUniverse moving forward. So there you go. And finally, before we get out of here, did want to just make a quick mention here. AAW out of Chicago. Now, I will not be going to the show on Friday. I have tickets, but unfortunately, I have to go to a wake. So I have given my tickets up. But they are celebrating their 20th anniversary this Friday with AAW Legacy. And I just kind of wanted to point out that it's pretty awesome. I mean, I've gone to a lot of their shows. I've probably gone for the last 13 to 14 years or so. I've gone to as many of their shows as I possibly can go to. But 20 years for AAW. That is not easy to do for an independent wrestling company to still do that. And they're still running. They're still selling out shows. They're still doing a pretty good business. So cool for them to do that. They might be out of the limelight or the social media buzz sphere these days, as they're no longer super indie like they were several years ago, or definitely before AEW. But AEW is still out there doing work, running monthly, and celebrating 20 years this Friday. I believe that show is available on the High Spots Network. I think that's where they live stream stuff. It's the High Spots Network. So show itself, there's nothing too crazy on the show. It's kind of their core roster that they've had for the last year or so. But yeah, I just thought I want to point that out. That pretty cool to celebrate 20 years for any wrestling promotion, especially an independent wrestling promotion.
Yeah.
And there we go. So that is it for us, folks. Make sure you subscribe to flagshippatreon.com for bonus audio from Joe and I, including the Thursday Dynamite review. I did a brand new episode of Bret versus Owen. I look at the Bret Hart versus Owen Hart feud from 1994. Will be out pretty soon. I'm churning through the franchise, a series about Sting. So Sting's greatest matches through all the different eras of his career. So we're doing that series on Flagship Patreon. I did a written piece that I talked about the quotes about Vince McMahon. That is up there. And, of course, next week we'll have Instant Reaction Live for AEW Revolution. So that should be a lot of fun next Saturday as well, or next Sunday as well for AEW Revolution. But, yeah, that is it for us. So we will talk to you again next time. Again, subscribe on your podcast app of choice, voiceofwrestling.com, previews, reviews, columns, all that other good stuff. Anyway, that is Joe. I'm Rich. We'll talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.
Hey everybody, my name is Jesse Collins, and I want to tell you all about my show, the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, here on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network. On the Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast, we do a thorough analysis on the biggest issues and trends within the pro wrestling industry. We talk a lot about pro wrestling media, we talk a lot about fan culture and wrestling's place within general pop culture, and we talk about the broader influences that are shaping the way we discuss and analyze the pro wrestling industry. We've had some of the brightest minds in the pro wrestling intelligentsia on the show, including WrestleNomics host Brandon Thurston, both Rich Craich and Joe Lanza from the Flagship Wrestling Podcast, Trevor Dame from the Through the Years podcast, and a whole lot more. This isn't a show for hot takes. It's not a show recapping the latest episode of television. This is a show focusing on the biggest topics in pro wrestling and doing a deep dive on the real stories behind the surface level analysis you might find elsewhere. The Gentleman's Wrestling Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts, and we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a try. Thanks.